Welcome everybody. Welcome to both the Speculate listeners and, of course, to my own lovely Twitch channel watchers and viewers, the Arvanauts. It's good to see everyone here. Welcome to Speculate, first of all, to the podcast listeners, as I said. Welcome to a new show that we are premiering tonight as both a joint Speculate and Twitch event, which is called Rebel Crown. We are very excited to talk about this, to talk about the game, and about the different characters that you're going to meet, and the stories that we're going to have, and the adventures we're going to go on, and all that stuff is really cool. But before we go any further, I do want to welcome them, and I also, as I said, want to welcome the Arvanauts to the Twitch channel. If you want to support us on our actual play podcast, you folks know how to do that. In chat of Twitch, !Speculate will allow you to show how you can support us by checking the Patreon. This, of course, is the actual play podcast co-hosted by myself, Brandon O'Brien, and Michael R. Underwood, and is currently available over at speculatesf.com. !Speculate, though, is also, I believe, the link to our Speculate Patreon, which is the way that we make shows like this possible. And if anyone is interested in, like, well, how can I get some other things done? How do I find other things about Speculate? I'm glad you asked, because we did a session 0 of this stream, which was available exclusively to Patreon subscribers. And if you go over and subscribe to the channel, you can check out the backstories and how this stuff all came together when we did this all last month. And also, of course, it helps support the channel. You will get more bonus and exclusive content available just to you folks. And we're really trying to make a push to build up our Speculate Patreon this year so we can pay our audio editors and do all that good stuff. So any support that you can give over there is much appreciated. So check that out. As for this channel, you folks know how to do that if you are watching here live on twitch.tv/arvanelleron. And the way to do that is to follow us here on the channel, to support our channel by checking out the YouTube and subscribing to that YouTube as well. That is free. !ArvTube. !ArvCord is our Discord channel where you can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. There is a Speculate sub-server over on that Discord as well, by the way. !ArvTweets is my Twitter, where you can check out my Twitter. And you can also check out a link. I need to have this linked there, but we also have a Speculate Twitter as well, which you can follow, which will always post when there is cool stuff going with Speculate area type stuff. And so !Arv Tweets will get you over to my Twitter, and then you can follow me and also link over to follow them. You can also follow at The Rising Tides and at, I think it's M Underwood, although I have to look again, for Mike's Twitter. So there's that as well. And then we've got exclamation point. Let's see. So I mentioned that already. That was Arv Tweets. And then we've got the website Gregory Arvin. I almost said my own name. ArvanElleron.com. On the financial side for the channel, !Arv Shop is the merchandise area. You can get stuff for the Infinity and Beyond crew, and you can also get stuff for the Adventures of Middle Earth crew and soon to be Esper Genesis stuff there as well. Arv. Let's see. Arv Ciaran is the Patreon. My channel's Patreon, which is currently sitting at 21 patrons, $2.33 per month. That supports this channel, and that is always also really important. You can get cool stuff for yourself and cool stuff for the channel individually, so we appreciate that support. And you can get inspirations for the players, which also comes into play during this event, I should say, too. And then also we've got, of course, that sub button, which allows you to subscribe to me here on Twitch. That also supports the channel. You can get custom sub badges and emotes and things like that. Lastly, publishing stuff, !Icarus for details about my Icarus graphic novel from Athos Arts, !Library for tales and tomes from the Forbidden Library, my 5e adventure and sourcebook, which seems appropriate for a tabletop session like this one, and that from Alligator Alley, and !Gray Shake KS, which I'm very excited about, which is my new Kickstarter, which is going to be launching next month with multiple stuff from me and from a lot of really talented people, and I'm very excited about it, and you'll see all that, and we'll talk more about that as time goes on. And lastly, of course, !BLM, Black Lives Matter. Again, it's always important to affirm and assert, especially these days, the significance and importance of Black lives. There are resources you can find over at that link listed on my channel that will give you information about educational advocacy and about political advocacy, about education for yourself, for your children, for yourself as an ally, or for yourself if you wish to have others as allies for you, etc., etc. So we've got that. And then !Help Now, which is the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention, which is also something that we've been trying to spread the word about and support as well. With that said, though, it is my pleasure to bring us over to the full crew. And so I'm going to unmute myself with greatest apologies to anyone I may have interrupted because I can't hear them, but I had to do that so they knew we were ready to go. And now I'm going to unmute them. And last but certainly not least, I'm going to slide over to... That is right. This new overlay, incidentally, let me just point out to everybody, this new overlay is provided to us by the amazing Shadowed Mage, who, as usual, did a spectacular job, because that's just how Shadowed rolls. Must be because he's Canadian. They're just automatically better people. Anyway, no, but Shadowed is awesome, so thank you so much for this, Shadowed. And as you can see, we are all here, and it is my great pleasure to hand things over to the GM and also my co-host, one of my two co-hosts on this podcast, the spectacularly awesome Michael Underwood, to tell us more about this awesome game and how we're going to not die when we lay siege to everything. That's an inside joke, but it won't be for much longer. Mike, over to you.
Hey, everybody. I'm going to very quickly double check with Greg that everywhere we are recording where we need to be.
Yeah, we are. I'm sorry I didn't have a chance to type. Yeah, I'm recording locally, and also it's on Twitch being recorded too. So yes.
Okay, great. So that quick bit of stage direction is all taken care of. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I'm really excited for this, which is our series premiere of Speculate Rebel Crown. Some of you who are Patreon supporters may have already gotten to watch the session 0, which is available for supporters at $3 and up. I also just posted a GM prep video that's about an hour of me getting ready for this game, which we are going to be playing now. So Rebel Crown is a Forged in the Dark game by Michael Dunn O'Connor. It's a pretty slim game, but I think there's a lot there. And the tools that it gives us are set up for intense interpersonal drama, kind of desperate daring action, and a scale that is kind of on the state or kingdom level, though we're going to be zoomed into one smaller section. So I'm excited here, and I would love to ask our players to briefly introduce themselves, Twitter handles and/or shout out a recent project, and then I'll do a little bit longer intro of the game, and we will get started. Alex, would you like to start with intros? You appear to be muted.
I should not be muted.
You're good now.
Okay. So why do you always start with me? Is it because of the alphabet?
No, I can start with someone else next time.
All right. So my name is Alex Acks. I'm on Twitter at Katsu Probably my most recent project is I wrote a novelette for Blizzard for StarCraft 2. It's called One People, One Purpose. So I'm a writer. And I've been doing like recaps of WandaVision and caps locking about it on my Patreon, which is at patreon.com/AlexAx.
Excellent. DongWon?
Hi, I'm DongWon Song. I'm a literary agent. You can find me on Twitter at DongWon, DONGWON. And then I have a Substack where I talk about publishing called Publishing is Hard. And you can find that at publishingisHard.substack.com.
Cool. Brandon.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brandon O'Brien. I'm a poet, writer, and game designer from Trinidad and Tobago. I am 1/3 of the triumvirate of the Speculate crew. If you've seen me around on this channel, you know me as the GM of the other Speculate series, our Blades in the Dark campaign, The Case of Descended Seal, as well as the GM and game designer of Soundclash, which I do a series called Soundclash The Clampdown that is also on this channel. And you can find me on Twitter at The Rising Tides. That's TITHES.
Okay, and Greg, if you want to do a brief reintro, maybe feature something recent.
Sure. Folks will know me already as on the Twitch channel, Arvin Elleron, but my real name is Gregory A. Wilson. I am a college professor and an author, and the third of the triumvirate that Brandon previously mentioned. Run a number of tabletop campaigns on here as well, and probably the most recent thing, I suppose, was a short story late last year, because I have a bunch of stuff that is currently on submission. But the two things things that I'm super excited about at the moment are, first of all, the launch of as I was mentioning before, a Grey Shade Kickstarter, which is going to be 3 books, a board game, a tabletop game, an audiobook, all being launched in one Grey Shade IP universe launch next month, which is, I'm a little nervous, but it's exciting, and there's a lot of people, a lot of great people that are involved in it. And I'm also the lead writer for a video game called Chosen Heart, which is in production as we speak, and that has been a lot of fun as well. And so that's me.
Okay, and again, I'm Michael R. Underwood. I'm an author, podcaster, and publishing professional. My latest book is Annihilation Aria, which is a found family space opera, and it is currently a part of the Expansive Futures bundle on Story Bundle, where you can get Aria and 17 other books for a donation of $15. Some of that will go to Story Bundle, some will go to SFWA, the Science Fiction Fantasy Writers of America, which is an advocacy organization for SFF writers, and then the authors also get paid. So it's a great way to pick up a bunch of science fiction books, check out stuff from writers that you haven't known before, and support a great organization. So we are playing Rebel Crown, and Rebel Crown is kind of a late medieval ish kind of Northwestern European inspired, especially I think Irish inspired setting. And in Rebel Crown, there's kind of a built-in campaign where you have a claimant who is a deposed or kind of kept from assuming the crown, royal, king, queen, whatever, and their retinue trying to take the throne from a usurper. And in this setting, the usurper is Maedoc, who is Maedoc Lolaire, the Bloody King, as he is also known. And our claimant is Splendour Ciaran Lolaire. And so I'm going to do a series introduction that's just out of the book, specifically from Michael Don O'Connor. And then we're going to do character intros and safety tools and get started. So, Rebel Crown. 2 bitter years in exile have come to an end. You've returned home to Crobhan, a small kingdom of moss and crag. This is the kingdom you were born in, and that is yours to rule by right. Your uncle Maedoc has disowned you and stripped you of all land and titles. You have returned to claim your inheritance, but you face terrible odds. Arriving in Maedoc's court would mean certain death. Your only recourse is to fight your way up the ladder of power with your allies at your side. The retinue begins play in the Sedgelands and must chart a course to power from there. And so we know that Alex is playing the claimant, which is one of the playbooks in this game. And now I'm going to ask the players to introduce their characters, but Alex gets to go last this time as the claimant. And so I'm going to ask Greg, can you briefly introduce your character? So name, pronoun, playbooks, and just a little bit about them.
Man, so I knew there was going to be some downside to my going last, right? Sure. My character's name is veneration. I am the Vengeant in this game, and I guess some of the roles could be explained separately if Mike wants to do that. I am a character. He, him pronouns. I am in my mid-40s, silver gray beard, angular eyebrows. I walk with a slight limp. Because I come from a military background. I am, in fact, a former general. I served in House Lolaire before. And in fact, Ciaran is my cousin. And this is one of many reasons that I cannot stand Maedoc, who has deposed my cousin, and also because Maedoc is a terrible person in every respect. Because I had a brilliant military plan. I had a brilliant idea that was going to allow us to lay waste to our enemies, because I am an exceptional military commander, thank you very much, except that Maedoc screwed it up and basically set orders in place to betray me and then blame the military failure on myself. So that bastard is going to go down under all circumstances as soon as they have the opportunity to do so. I am going to claim vengeance by the end of this game. I predict this, chat and listeners. Thank you very much for the resub, by the way, Mike. That was good timing too. That's exactly what it'll sound like, the victory march when everyone walks into the Capitol. But I am going to do that by elevating Ciaran to the throne of House Lolaire, where they belong by right, and then defeating Maedoc Lolaire in military might, and then laughing as Maedoc watches his army go down in more literal than figurative flames. And I think that's basically all about me in terms of a short introduction. The rest will become clear during play.
Awesome. Brandon, do you want to tell us about your character?
I do. So I will be playing Rowan Byrne, who's the outlaw. They, them pronouns. I was previously in the employ of what is essentially a secret organization of assassins that tries to keep the peace throughout Crobhan as effectively as possible, and was given the responsibility of ensuring that the coup that has now taken place could not have taken place at some point, but made the error of assuming that the person who was attempting to claim the throne was not Maedoc, but Madoc's brother, Donal, who I then assassinated, got caught in the assassination of, and is now responsible for not only accidentally bringing Maedoc into power, but alienating my entire organization as a result. And my goal at this point is to return the claimant to their rightful seat on the throne, not only so I can regain my own honor, but so that I can regain the honor of my entire organization.
Very cool. And could you give us the very cool name for that organization real quick?
All right. Right. The name of the shadowy organization of spies that I work for is called the Sloach, because we are essentially just the Wild Hunt, just a shadowy wave of ghosts that just rides through your city, takes out whoever it needs to take out, and then disappears before you even know that we were there.
Yep. And 90s kids, aka Changeling the Dreaming players, will recognize that name. All right, DongWon, can you tell us about your character?
Yeah, I am playing the Devoted. Their name is Harvest Honeysuckle, pronouns they, them. Harvest was previously Maedoc's chief executioner before they decided that they needed a different moral compass to follow, and then attach themselves to their former leader, Ciaran, having decided that they made something of a mistake. Harvest is very big, very buff, as cheerful as they are bloody-minded, and has decided to attach themselves to Ciaran with sort of an extreme loyalty to prevent themselves from falling into the same moral trap they fell into before. Yeah.
Awesome. And Alex, now you get to be last. If you can tell us about your claimant.
Okay, so I play the claimant, Karen Lolaire, and I was deposed by my uncle Maedoc because he's a dick, but more importantly, because I'm a heretic who believes that the church of the God of the Paths is a false church, and the reason we're all ass deep in wraiths is because everybody stopped worshiping all of these smaller unnamed gods, and plus the church wanted more power, and they obviously, the throne is the only true power, obviously. And so I pissed off the church, and the church got with Maedoc, and I got deposed, and I'm kind of mad about it. So we're going to fix that.
Very cool. And that is our retinue. I'm going to very briefly recap our safety tools. We talked as a group over our safety tools and lines and veils during the session 0. So we are using lines and veils, a modified version that also has a list that is kind of asked first. So flag a topic when it comes up. And we're also using kind of a looser version of script change because we're drawing a lot on TV and film language. So someone might say, can we pause real quick? I need to catch my breath. Or can we pause? I need to put this on veils right now. The pause is basically just the like check-in fashion. And I think we can do that by raising a hand here or typing pause into the Zoom. And I would invite people to also ask for, like, can we fast forward through a scene that maybe has some content that folks don't want to linger on? Can we rewind and not have done something that we're not comfortable with? And so filmic types of language for being safe and everybody feeling like we're having a game that we want to have and we're not lingering too much in stuff that is uncomfortable in a way that we are not about. The lines and veils and other things are fluid, so just update that list as you see fit, based on what your needs are in the moment. Does anybody have any questions or want to check in about anything safety-wise before we get started? Okay, so it is the beginning of spring. Cold rains, early blooming flowers, travel and trade is picking back up, but the Sedgelands is plagued by wraiths left over from the usurpation and the everyday month in, month out deaths that happen over the course of a normal life, except when people die in this kingdom, they don't stay dead. Their wraiths kind of come back, and the more violent or cruel someone's death, the more terrifying and aggressive the wraith. And this has left the Sedgelands, a corner of the kingdom of Crobhan, at a bit of a crisis point. And this is the kind of the region of Crobhan that you've come back to from exile, Ciaran. I'm interested to hear, like, who is the person in the Sedgelands who's helped you get settled? Like, has someone set you up with lodging? You know, do you have a cabin in the woods? Are you staying at an inn? And this might be a contact that you have on your sheet or some other idea that you have of how the retinue gets established and has that starting point to then start doing sorties.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm friends with a tavern owner.
Okay. So that is Fergus.
Yes. So
Great.
Fergus
so
probably hooked me up.
Are you staying in Fergus's tavern, or has he done something else for you? What do you think?
I think that since it has not been so long since I was banished that my face will have been completely forgotten, he's probably set me up at a more secure location. You know, probably out in the woods where we can hide out and plot, and I can, you know, pray at some wraiths for him.
Okay. So what were my other questions? The book is not super clear about whether the retinue starts with like support staff. Like, because Ciaran was Splendour, do you think that that they would have like retained or been able to retain like a maid or like kind of chief of staff to kind of be an administrator for the retinue? Or is that something that they are kind of leaning on like this trio for?
I mean, I feel like going by the standards of nobility, I mean, I got deposed and exiled. I'm not an animal. Of course I have, like, you know, a servant to take care of dressing me and making my hair look nice. We're civilized people here.
Okay.
I would also suggest yes, because one of my NPC contacts and my best friend is a servant, and so it would make sense for that to be part of Ciaran's retinue.
Okay. And that's Maisie, right?
That would be Maisie, yes.
Cool. How does that sound to you, Alex?
That's totally fine.
Okay. So I had an idea for casting for Maisie, but I would leave veto to all of y'all. I was thinking we might kind of keep in mind Nicola Coughlin, who recently appeared in Bridgerton as Penelope Featherington.
Yeah, I'm down.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, she did a great performance in Bridgerton. She's also in Dairy Girls, which Meg likes, but I haven't seen. And so, yeah, so you've got kind of a servant and attendant. And do you think that the retinue overall is like the four of you plus one person plus a few people, just to get a sense of what the home life is like?
I mean, I would say I've only come with Maisie because, I obviously have to have a servant. That's probably about all I can afford to take care of. So it just kind of depends. I think I'm going to throw this over to Greg because I feel like the only other person who probably has that kind of wealth and, level of so shit.
You kind of broke up a little bit there, Alex. Can you go again?
Oh no.
Maybe. That's good. Well, it wasn't thrown over to me after all. No. I'm going to throw it over to you because
I'm gonna wait until everybody is like no longer.
Okay, I think you're back
I think
now.
you're back.
Yeah, I think you're back. You broke up a little bit. You were going to throw it over to me, but then I didn't hear anything else.
I think that was Venner might be the only other person on staff.
I was just waiting for everybody to stop being frozen. Like, oh god, my internet is like shitting itself apparently.
Oh no.
It's got the thing up that says your internet connection is unstable, and I'm like, there's nothing I can do about that, but thanks. Anyway, so I figure I will throw it over to Venner because Venner is the other person in the party I would expect to have a certain standard of living, to put it gently.
Yeah, well, I mean, to a degree, there's a military experience means that you're used to living on not much, but I have a small tent in my own direct group underneath my command, which now consists of one person, but that's fine. That's only a momentary, small, temporary problem that exists. It will be fine. It's important to work in a kind of, guerrilla warfare style. That'll be what's necessary until we're able to build up the army that we need. I should say that it's terrible to see Ciaran in these conditions. They should have been placed back in that spot that they deserved a long time ago. And when I have Maedoc's head on a spike, much of this will be put in a different way. In the meantime, I'm doing what I can to try to drill these people into some kind of recognizable condition. They all have talent, but it's all raw. It's undisciplined. It's like cake that hasn't been baked yet, but we'll make it eventually. In the meantime, I and my retinue of one we're doing what we can. Oh, and his name, in case anyone is curious, is Cranel. He is a very young man and too green and has a lot to learn, but he's not terrible, I suppose.
Greg, could you spell that for me?
Yes, Kraenal.
I mean, at least you're not like cleaning your own armor like a pleb, so it's fine.
Oh, no, that's important. Although I do always clean my own sword. It's very important to clean your own weapon and to keep it clean. Helps the next time the enemy sees it shining before you strike.
So what do the first few days of the retinue in the Sedgelands look like? So you're getting established, renewing connections, getting the lay of the land. How is Ciaran kind of getting started, and what are the rest of y'all doing kind of as this is happening? Is there something you're agitating for? I have some information about the region that we can talk through a little bit. I know we already talked about an idea for a sortie, but I wanted to kind of let there be a little bit of establishing shot here. So does anyone have ideas of what the first few days look like in terms of setting up this rhythm that puts you in a position to start doing sorties?
So I can say for sure that Ciaran is writing a lot of letters and, probably asking Maisie or Rowan or even Harvest or even Venner's servant to like run them to various places or leave them at various spots to just try to reestablish contact with people that I think will still talk to me, ? So that's mostly what I'm going to be doing, is doing a lot of like, hi, remember me?
I'm not so much delivering letters as I am down at the tavern drinking and dicing and generally carousing with the locals.
Then I will not be asking you to deliver letters. It's fine.
But you may get some access to some rumors. What is like Rowan's day to day as the newest member of this retinue?
Rowan has spent a lot of time not really interacting with anyone. I mean, Rowan is like publicly volatile as well. Can't afford to be seen by the rest of the Sloach because they think that I've ruined their standing. Can't be seen by House Lolaire and their allies. So I've spent most of my time either gathering information from like adjacent spy organizations around the Sedgelands about potential moves that we can make. Or I've been in the pub as well. Not so much with Harvest so much as I'm just about when Harvest tends to be about, and we will drink and nod to each other and acknowledge that maybe we should be drinking together before something goes wrong, but I'm just gonna do my own thing over here.
Are you wearing a really beautiful false mustache so the other Sluat won't know it's you?
Perhaps
eyeglasses.
The very weird thing is I'm making a terrible decision in that I'm wearing a hooded cloak so that nobody knows that it's me, but it's a very expensive Sluach coat, so everybody knows that at least I'm a spy and they shouldn't mess with me. But if they ever wanted to find out who I was, thinking that I was a potential ally, things might get sticky in this pub very quickly.
What?
And you're like the only one with a hooded cloak, right? So everyone's just dressed normally. No one sees me. Like you're just the only one walking through.
What is it about that cloak that is specific to the Sluach?
It has our emblem as a pin. That is just at the just like outside the hood itself, and the quality of the hood is like unnecessarily expensive. It's like studded leather that gives the impression of dragon scales.
Cool.
Which is really neat and really comfortable. But like, if I didn't want anybody to really notice that I was here, I shouldn't have worn it.
Just add a little bit of color to Harvest and Rowan being in the same tavern. Anytime you both are drinking the same place, I think Harvest catches your eye, Rowan, and then they just kind of wink and tap the hilt of their blade of a dagger that they have at their waist. And mechanically, that is, we have the what's the term for them in this? Harvest has the belief around Rowan is that Rowan escaped my blade because I think Rowan was someone that was set to be executed, and that did not happen.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm trying not to piss you off about as a result.
I mean, it could be a good thing because perhaps you're not allowed to die until Harvest can get you.
But to be clear, it's not like super menacing. It's actually kind of friendly, but it's like friendly, like I see you, I got you, like yeah.
I missed you the last time, but not this one. Hey. It's like, and I'm just nodding very awkwardly and sitting down.
For folks who who are watching, Rebel Crown by default asks characters to have a belief kind of about the claimant if they're in the retinue, or if they are the claimant, a belief about each member in the retinue. But something that I've come to really appreciate in especially Forged and some other actual play games is characters entering a campaign with at least some initial belief about one another. And so I asked everybody to have a belief about each other PC, which gives us a little bit more initial position about what the characters think about one another. So that gives us a little bit of kind of table setting for the group. What is Ciaran's first big move? And what does it look like when you kind of make that call? Because we're doing a Forged game, all we need to get to an engagement roll is here's the target, here's the plan, and here's the detail. We'll do a little bit more, but we don't have to do a lot of like spread the map out, put a dagger in it, and talk for 15 minutes to go through the details. We can do just a little bit to figure out what the plan is, and then use the mechanics that we have to be able to kind of fast forward through some things. So are you all interested in going with the plan that we sketched out in session 0? And if so, does somebody want to kind of explain what that idea is?
I think you go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, just
I was gonna say, I think I remember because I literally just watched it. So if you mean our plan where we were like, oh, Venner has a buddy that's around here.
That's right. Yeah.
Who might, so maybe let's do us a spot of light abduction for some political advantage, but not murder.
Greg, do you want to talk about your contact that applies here?
Yeah. So it must be understood from the outset that this is a person who could have gone in a different direction and chose not to. They chose the wrong path in life, but I have not rejected them from returning to a main path of goodness at some point. And they are somewhat on the backward side of the law, somewhat. Occasionally, perhaps have fallen afoul of certain officials. And so, anyway, the name of this character is Drosten, and runs a group of bandits in this area. And Drosten would be, perhaps for the right convincing and perhaps a little bit of extra revenue put in his direction, might be capable of assisting us in this light abduction, for the glory of my cousin. And so it was our plan to try to go find
abducted
Drosten.
Or they're not abducted. There's no such thing as a light abduction.
It's a bit of partial removal from the scene, temporary.
So I'm leaving. Am I just taking a leg?
It's temporary. It's
2 legs.
It's just you're taking all of him. You're taking all of them alive, just not forever. Just until we get what we want.
It's an abduction. We are taking him. Maybe we give him back at some point, but we abduct him.
It's a borrowing.
And then we give him back.
It's a borrowing, really.
It's not a library. It's a kidnapping. Call it what it is.
Listen, we're trying not to fall and become the same people that Maedoc is. If you want to call it that, you can call it whatever you like. So I gesture at this point. I don't know whether I came into the I like this image that I'm like shouting at the window while Harvest is like inside. It's like, listen, you get it. So I come to the let's assume that maybe I'm right inside the tavern, probably sitting down rather awkwardly.
I like the idea that you were soliloquying to yourself in the court.
Yeah, that would be great. No. No, but so I think I would turn around here and I would kind of gesture, and Cranel's going to walk up and is just going to hand me essentially a sketched out map that I've made of the best route to get to Drosten. And I, sort of put it on the table so Rowan is there and Harvest, and is Ciaran at the tavern or not? Ciaran is back at the tent, or
I would imagine if this is the part where we're actually discussing the plan, I think I probably should be there.
Okay, I just didn't know if you were, if you wanted to be in a tavern, it's a little bit below your station, that's all.
I'm not allergic to it. Well, it's fine. So yes, that was Ciaran sitting there with their face in their hands as you and Harvest were bickering.
So I kind of lay it out then, and I lay at the table, and I point to a couple of areas, and I say, all right, there's one problem if we're going to get a hold of Drosten. Now, Drosten is, well, I wouldn't call them honorable, but he won't kill us on sight, probably. But the thing that we need to be aware of as we're going there is I don't know that all of the ones that work with him are going to know us in the same way. So the safest way to do this then is this way. And I sort of point out essentially, so you see, as everyone watching on the Twitch channel will see, there's a little, for those of you listening, there's a map of this area of Crobhan, and then we're at the Sedgelands, and in the middle is an area that literally just says Drostan's Bandits. So I have, which is very convenient. So I have basically, I've put this wedge, triangle wedge arrow essentially down from the top, and I say, we will go up to them openly. We'll ride up to them openly together in a non-threatening way. And I kind of glance over at both Harvest and Rowan. I just kind of, for a moment, glance over when I say non-threatening. And unfortunately, now, by the way, is it okay? Am I able to call, I'm trying to think if it'd be a terrible breach of protocol to call you cousin in public, Ciaran, or should I always be calling you, I don't know, should I always be calling you the one who will be returned, or what is the official title?
Oh my god, that sounds like a video that needs to go back to Blockbuster.
The overdue VHS tape. No.
I think as we are cousins,
the drop slot of destiny.
Particularly when we are not in a formal situation, if we're gonna play with that a little, cousin totally works, because especially if we're trying to keep it on the down low in a tavern, calling me Splendour is not very subtle.
Okay. Right. So Splendour only comes out in the full, when needed. Okay.
If I should be speaking in the royal we, then you probably should be calling me Splendour.
Yes. Okay. So, all right. So I will say, I don't remember why I asked that question, but anyway, cousin, we may need to have, you're going to have to be with us, although there is some danger associated with this, and we don't have that much security available to us, but we'll need you there if we're going to make this work. I'm not going to be able to convince Drostan on my own, but you need to be, and I kind of look directly at, careful.
Cousin, I'm saddened to know that you would have even thought of leaving behind in this situation, because obviously this is an important part of our mission, so I should be there.
It's dangerous is the problem.
How could I expect any of you to face a danger that I am unwilling to face myself?
We're doing this to put you back on the throne, living, not dead. That's why I care. And I sort of like looking over you yes.
Rowan's hand shoots up the minute that Ciaran says that, and says, a gentle reminder that the rest of us risk our lives for a living. We are here in service of you precisely because we want no harm to befall you. You don't have to, and you don't have to encounter these same kinds of risks that we do.
I nod vigorously at that. Oh, precisely. It's quite sensible, actually. I have a vague amount of surprise that Rowan was sensible just then, but I'm it's sensible comment. Yeah.
Rowan just rolls their eyes.
It is my highest duty to care for these lands and the people in them, which at this point is just you.
This is fair, but you can't keep caring for us if someone takes your hands off. So let us be.
And likewise. Hands. So let us not have this ridiculous argument.
All right. So a sortie can have one of 5 objectives in Rebel Crown. There's 2 that are kind of lower stakes. One is gain status. So you're trying to improve your relationship with a faction, like Drostan's Raiders. You can weaken faction, which is kind of, you're trying to undermine a faction to make it easier to deal with them in some way. And then there are 3 sorties that are about seizing a claim. So basically seizing a holding. And there are 3 holdings in the Sedgelands: Drostan's Bandits, Bellheather, and the Southern Markets. So you could go right to something to try to seize a holding. Those sortie objectives are vassalize, basically make someone into a vassal and bring them into your kind of your new kingdom. There is pillage, destroy a holding for valuables and supplies.
Harvest, no, bad.
We won't be doing that one.
And there is seize, claim the holding for yourself, which is kind of probably hostile takeover. What objective, Ciaran, do you want to achieve with this thing that you're doing? Is this more about getting status with somebody? Is it about undermining somebody else? What of those makes sense?
I mean, I feel like it really serves a dual purpose because it's going to weaken the standing of the person we're following, and it's going to build our standing with the Raiders because we're hopefully going to get them on our side, since they've apparently been a big enough thorn in the side of, oh, what's her bucket? I hate her. What's her name?
So the noble house in charge of the Sedge lands is House Ciaran.
Yeah.
And then House Gearr are the ones to the east in Whitebeam who have some designs on the Sedge lands. And Gearr is the house that is married into House Lolaire, with Fiona Gearr married to Maedoc.
That's right. So we want to borrow somebody from House Gearr, and we want to get, I mean, ultimately what we want is we want the Raiders working for us, and we want to get favor with House Gearr, so they'll throw in with us, because if nothing else, humiliating House Gearr by kidnapping one of their people is actually a way that's going to help House Gearr out as well.
The way that you're doing this is really smart. So I think mechanically...
Oh my God, guys, we were smart. Holy shit.
That
success, the game is won.
The question is basically each of these modes, and I think that's really smart, each sortie type has a little thing that says when the sortie ends. So gain status, end a gain status sortie when the relationship with the target faction is decisively improved. Weaken faction says end a weaken faction sortie when the faction has lost a key asset or advantage, or when a critical vulnerability has been revealed. So I think if it was weaken faction, the sortie would be over once you had a hostage in hand. A gain status sortie would be over when you've done something to decisively improve your relationship with Drosten. So it probably makes sense to make that decision now. Do we want to get a scene of everybody talking with Drosten before you try and go and do the skullduggery? I think it'd be great to get that group on camera if y'all are into it.
Like talking with Drosten?
Yeah, because that's the first sortie is just talking with, right? Am I missing something?
Okay.
I think
so.
I was wondering if...
I'm confused. Wait, I thought we were kidnapping Drosten.
No, I thought we were...
No.
Yeah.
I think we're going to kidnap, looking at our available kidnappies, probably Lady Gearr's son.
With the help of Drosten.
Right. Okay, got it.
So,
and then hopefully we can convince Drosten to kind of make nice with House Gearr, because we can be like, well, maybe if you leave them alone, I'll give you a richer target.
Right. So
elsewhere.
The kidnapping is the first step rather than the, hey, Drosten, we're going to do this for you. Is that right?
I mean, it depends. Do we think we can go kidnap this guy on our own, or do we think we need Drosten's help? Which I feel it depends. So basically it's, if we don't think we can do it without him, we need to go talk to Drosten first. If we can go do it without him and be like, hi, Drosten, we brought you a present, that is actually a much stronger position. Like, hey, I hear you wanted to kidnap Noble. I found an extra one at the store. Got it for you. So it just depends on if we think we can get this kid on our own, because it's a group of 3 stone-cold badasses and somebody who just sort of wanders around in a yellow smock and prays all the time.
I mean, I think the chances of 5, maybe 6 of us successfully kidnapping without disastrous consequences and I think is very unlikely. My I think getting Drosten on our side would be good just in terms of numbers, distraction, creating, engaging some guards while we deal with the other problem, or even, I say now returning to character, or even getting Drosten's people to be the ones who launch an assault. We kidnap them, the blame fall, we kidnap our target. Drosten gets blamed for it, and we'll have to figure out how to explain to him how that works in his favor. And we end up getting what we want without any undue attention being placed upon us. The longer that we can stay out of Maedoc's notice, the better, I think. until we're ready to destroy him utterly under our military might, but that's later.
I elbow Rowan at this point and say, apparently being a military genius just means getting more people.
Question.
More hands are always useful, and ultimately, unless you have the utmost faith in your own hands, what's most useful in this instance is that Drosten doesn't lose at all if we offer our services in camaraderie with them. If we fail, we are still in his debt. If we win for him as well. The least that he can do is give us a couple of thieves.
I thought the whole point of this venture was to have a little faith.
You can have some for me then, but unfortunately I have none to spare.
I look once again, by the way, at Rowan with a little bit of mixture of surprise and respect, like,
Mike, I have a question.
Go for it.
Do we know anything about this young man that we are going to borrow?
Sure. So I took some artistic license and I've recast Aiden Gearr as a non-binary child with she/they pronouns. And my casting here is Lachlan Watson, who appeared in the Sabrina Netflix show. Because Aiden's write-up includes talented painter. And so there's a great picture of Lachlan Watson with like cool kind of almost fae makeup. So Aiden is the sole child of Lady Brianna Gearr, who is the kind of head of the lesser House Gearr. To get more info, we would go into the recon phase, which is where you can make some gather information rolls. Because Greg's character Venner has Drosten as a contact, we could set this up as you go to a contact for aid, and then you're going to have that aid on the sortie, which is the kidnapping, which sounds like what we're doing. So
well, if all of my advisors, or the majority of them, are in favor of going to the bandits first, then I suppose that's what we'll do.
Yeah, so we could get a short scene that is mechanically going to a contact for assistance. We'll get a little bit of making that pitch, getting Drosten on scene, seeing how your relationship works, and then we can go to the sortie.
Sounds good.
Okay. So Greg, you've already kind of established more or less how you would pitch the group going to speak with Drosten. Is that what y'all want to do? Because if it's your recon, then kind of you're going to be framing the scene.
As long as everyone else is cool with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, Greg, why don't you make a fortune roll with one die, and this is going to be how the group is received by Drosten's bandits before anybody can identify who you are. You want to roll high.
Great.
Do low, please, please.
All right, fortune roll.
I think no matter what, as we start heading into the forest, Harvest is just like, wait, we're just walking in the front door? Ugh.
Do you usually enter through the back door of a thieves then?
Well, you don't go through the front door, I can tell you that. That's where they rob people.
The back door is where they have all the booby traps aimed.
Okay. I got it. Number of dice 1, you said?
One die.
Okay. All right.
Please, low,
This
please.
is effectively the Han Solo and Lando Calrissian reintroduction scene.
You old pirate. What do you? Okay.
We'll find out.
And then input value. Do I leave that blank?
It should just be one for one die.
Well, it was 1 for 1 die, but then it gave me input value and notes. So do I put 1 again?
All right. I guess you could leave notes blank, or you could type in notes what the roll is for.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it'd be like Drosten ?
Sounds good. All right. Here we go. 3. which I
Okay,
think
so that's a 3. What piece of clothing or something else that Venner is wearing or holding gets shot out of his hand as the group kind of approaches a clearing?
Let's see. I think I was probably holding up, as we were riding, I was probably holding up a small white handkerchief, basically, which is sometimes considered just surrender, but actually can refer to peace, an offering of peace. So literally the handkerchief gets shot out of my hand while I'm going, God damn it.
And y'all hear like a message in a whistle, like, and there's rustling in the trees around you.
So, okay.
So Rowan has reflexes. So I'm going to go to you first, Brandon.
Because I definitely, the very first thing that I want to do is essentially like, is this a bad idea? I want to fire a warning shot. I want to take one of my knives and aim it at the foot of someone who is presently scuttling around us, and like see if I can get everyone to cool out for a bit.
Okay.
So I imagine that would be most likely a prowl roll, I imagine.
I think you would probably have the best effect with hunt.
Right, yes. That's
attack
fair.
with precision shooting from a distance.
Okay.
And your intent here is what specifically?
I want to strike close to but not hit someone with the intention of simply getting their attention.
Okay. So you all are in a risky position.
Yeah, we are.
Because Drosten is an uptick contact, but you haven't talked in a while. So risky position. If you're using your fine crossbow, I think you're going to have great effect because it's going to give you some precision there.
Okay, fair enough. I will do that then.
I'm going to be very overt that with this action roll, because it is recon, I'm not going to make a hard move against y'all. So I'm not encouraging you to like spend resources here. But this is also a way for us to kind of soft pedal reintroducing how action rolls work here. So action rolls are the most common roll that you will make. Brandon made a declaration. We figured out what the action that is going to be rolled here. I gave a position and an effect, which is impacted by the fiction and by gear and material that someone is holding. And now Brandon would make a roll and we'd evaluate the result.
Okay.
By the way, Mike, I should ask just very quickly, is there so we have on the channel, as you know, and Brandon knows, a inspiration mechanic that allows people to, in D&D, it's inspire terms, but there's no reason it can't be used in this context if you allow it, which would allow people to inspire Rowan in this case, and then Rowan could roll twice and choose the result that they wish on the given roll. So I'm just asking whether that's being permitted, not because I'm terrified that we're actually going to get a failure, which involves shooting Drosten through the head, which is going to be really bad. I'm just just curious about,
I think in Scum and Villainy, we used inspiration as an extra die.
Or however, you want to do it.
It's not quite as powerful as advantage in a D20 kind of situation.
It's up to you. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I think.
Well, there is an assist mechanic in this, isn't there? Isn't there a helper hinder or something like that?
Yeah, so it could be just a free assist, which would add a die. I think I will chew on it a little and figure out if there's something else that I want to do to make it even a little bit nicer.
Okay.
Because I think it's a fun mechanic. It definitely incentivizes people to kind of participate in the game and be attentive. So I want to make it feel like it's worthwhile.
Sounds good. Okay, don't miss, Ron. I mean, do miss. Okay. Don't hit. Do I see this, by the way? Do I see Rowan or is Rowan just like, wapow, like in 3 seconds?
What we get is the the handkerchief is shot out of your hand. We follow it, and it like slams into the ground, into kind of slightly muddy ground, and the handkerchief isn't even torn. It just went through exactly where it went through. And then there's the whistle and rustling, and the camera pulls back, and there's movement everywhere. And then we cut into Rowan, who already has the crossbow out, tracks, and fires.
Okay, got it.
So no bonus dice. Okay. A 6 and a 2.
Yep. So
means I did not murder anyone.
Yeah. So it goes right where you mean it, and then you hear a laugh, and someone plucks the bolt out from kind of where it nearly hit a foot, and dropping out of the tree, we get a handsome middle-aged man with dark brown skin, kind of close-shaven hair with salt and pepper, kind of a fairly like a nice jerkin with like the extra hood that goes on top that's just goes around, kind of like a big hauberk, but it's cloth, and it has 2 buttons at the neck, and a hood pulled back. And Greg Venner knows that this is Drosten, or Prince Drosten.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of hits the ground and holds up the bolt and says, "I can tell a Sluagh anywhere," and like just tosses it back to you in kind of in good humor, and says, "Venner, get off that horse and give me a hug."
And so I sort of pull, with a little bit of a glance over at Rowan, I rein the horse in. I drop down to the ground. I hand the reins over to Cranel, and I step forward and kind of shake my head, and then, well. And so then I give him a hug.
And he kind of grabs you by the shoulders and says, "I knew that that bloody bastard wouldn't have gotten to you." And
not yet.
Yes, it's always good to host royalty. It is in keeping with my role as prince to welcome visiting dignitaries. Welcome back to Crobhan, your splendor.
I just glance at Harvest and roll my eyes.
Harvest goes.
Well, I was gonna say, Ciaran keeps a straight face and says, "We thank you for your greeting."
And so I look him up and down. I take a step back and I look him up and down, and I say, "So, I see the years and the times have been treating you about as I would have expected. Where are the other mice in their holes? You have enough of them rustling?"
Oh, they're out and about. The last snow has thawed, and so the game is afoot.
Not much longer, if you spend your time in here alone. The people you spoke of that have temporarily removed some of us from where they ought to be is going to eventually light itself upon you. You realize, Drosten, that there were not all those within the court who supported your presence and those of your people here. That's going to change now that there's someone new in the position. Actually, that's why we've come to talk to you.
Oh, I'm sure Sienna would see me hung if she could.
And I shrug. Well, maybe. I think that's something which perhaps gives you an opportunity now. Oh, perhaps I should introduce the others of our group. And I point first to Cranel, and it's like, my assistant, Cranel. And then to the left, obviously, I don't reintroduce the Splendour Ciaran because it's already been done. So I look over and I'm like, may I present Harvest Honeysuckle? And I believe you already know the Rowan Byrne, or at least the group with which Rowan is associated. They have also joined us in this sacred endeavor. And I kind of look over as if being like, sacred, because it is sacred, right? Like that type of thing, looking at the both of them.
Very well then. What shall we do first? If you have a plan and it benefits me, and if it benefits my domain, then you have my ear.
It does benefit both of those things. You sure you want to do this out here? I don't know how loud or how large the ears of your mice are, or whether they could find bigger cheese elsewhere than in your home. It's up to you, of course, but...
You can speak plainly, Venner. These people are mine. They are loyal to me. Come, we have it's not a lot. There's a rabbit on the roast.
All right, then. So he, and then does that mean that he leads us to...
Yeah, he'll lead you kind of through the next clearing to kind of a temporary hideout. This is not the hut that they have, but there's a half a dozen of Drostan's people. So specifically, I'm gonna introduce Brother Fior, who is a kind of young middle-aged friar / brother of the kind of the main church in robes, and Isbael, who is kind of a lean, hawkish, fairly intense looking hunter. For Isbael, kind of my touchstone is like the edgier versions of like Alan Adale from Robin Hood.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're chilling out. There's a rabbit roasting on the fire. One of Drostan's people is tending to it, and he kind of gestures to like rocks that are aligned. My court is humble, but you are very welcome.
So I think I would sit down and then I would look over at Ciaran, because I know you said me framing the scene, but I feel like it's up to Ciaran. I don't want to be like, no, let me tell you what we're doing. I mean, I want to make sure that Ciaran gets the first decision. But if Ciaran wants to like toss the ball back over to me, that's fine. But I don't want to speak before Ciaran.
Can I make a suggestion here? I'm wondering if Harvest can sort of go off and start like trying to make friends with the side characters you just mentioned, brother.
Yeah.
I forgot what his name is, and like, just start like asking if they have any ale. And a function, what I would like to do here is actually make a gather information roll.
Absolutely.
And we can hold that roll until after this main conversation happens. But
yeah, that sounds great. So yeah, let's zoom in on maybe Venner and Ciaran and Drostan for a little bit, and then we can do that.
Great.
And I don't want to linger too much on these because I think you've got the position now to get some of that support. So we can do a couple of touches, check in to see if there's any other gather information, and then start a engagement. So yeah, Drostan kind of Ciaran, Drostan offers you a horn with ale.
They take their drink and pass it back. So you mentioned, oh my God, I'm already like losing names.
There's a lot of them.
You mentioned Lady Sienna. What is your position with Lady Brianna?
Brianna is far enough away that her ire isn't pointed at me directly. If I have no doubt that if she had me in her sights, she'd take the shot just as soon as Sienna. But Brianna has some designs on this region.
So I have heard.
I kind of nod with a smile.
I'm taking a swing at the gear might be a little hot for me because of the seat on which Fiona sits. But I am tired of asking my people to get by on rabbits and dribblings and drabblings and the danger of the road and the wraiths. So if you have an idea of something bigger, of a way to press my claim as you press yours, speak.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for my internet's being weird again. So I'm just waiting for everybody to unfreeze. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, no worries.
So I think that should we disadvantage House Gearr, then you can leave the negotiation to House Gearr with me. For it is our interest that you and House Gearr get along and become allies and be friends with us.
Well, that would be no small feat.
I do not think small.
Good. I'm tired of living small.
So if you're willing to play a longer game, would you be interested in the spoils of House Gearr? For I would rather have someone loyal in those lands.
You are playing large. What would you ask of me to make this happen?
Your allegiance, your work with this friend that you already have here, because of course we are but small to start, but we have lofty goals and we have gods on our side.
Well, I think it's a little early to talk about kneeling and vassailing and knighthood and anything like that.
Of course.
But if you need some people, in what way do you want to disenfranchise or ruin the day of House Gearr? It's quite a long ride to Whitebeam.
I hear that Lady Brianna has a child.
Aye.
What know you of them?
Aiden. What have I heard of Aiden? And I think he signals to Brother Fior, which can either be before or after this other scene that we're going to get. And this is where I'm going to review my notes so that I stay consistent with what I have written for myself.
And I assume I'm doing okay so far because Venner has not
I continue to just be like,
Okay.
I'm not likely to cut you off at this point. Yeah, because I mean, like, I'll there's a point where I'll jump in, but like,
yeah.
Logistics. When we get to the logistics,
that's
your thing.
Yeah.
I'm more of an idea person.
Right. I execute I try to.
Right. And Fior says, the sister at the Abbey at Gearr says that Aiden is short of temper, but believes in the dream of nobility, in the idea that obligation goes hand in hand with privilege, that things are now as they are meant to be, with Gearr holding the reins of the kingdom.
Typical.
Interesting. Hot-tempered is a useful trait from our point of view.
Quick side note, how old is Aiden? Do we know?
Aiden is like 16.
Okay.
And so I think this is probably the time, Alex, that I will ask you to make a gather information roll.
Okay.
And then I will let you ask more specific questions to set up. And this is something that everybody can buy in or give suggestions on. So a gather information roll is one that doesn't necessarily have to have a position. So if you roll poorly, you're not automatically going to get a consequence. But if you roll better, you will get more and better information.
Okay.
So you're talking with Drosten and with Fior and Drosten's raiders more generally. What you'll want to do for a gather information roll is to pick an action that is, here's the type of action I'm doing to get this information. Are you consorting with them? Are you commanding them? Like, if we are to work together, you're going to tell me this kind of, what kind of flavor of social are you using?
Oh, I'm definitely using consort because since Drosten styles himself Prince, I am flattering him by accepting him as something close to an equal.
Sure. Okay. That sounds good to me. So you are gather information. You have 1 dot in consort. By default, you would get 1 die. Venner is certainly in a position to assist.
I was just about to ask
Greg,
if I could assist. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything in consort myself. I don't know whether that's required. Command is not going to be, tell us what we want to know is not what I'm going to do. So I'm guessing.
With your old buddy.
Where's Rachel? No, I'm not going to do that. So I assume then that I could just assist by virtue, I think, of my connection with Drosten. Is that
absolutely
reasonable?
Yeah, I think that's, you know, I think maybe that's represented by, you know, it could be something like you bring up a story of some experience that you and Drosten had together. And so, Greg, if you tick 1 stress for Venner, then Ciaran will get a bonus die from the assist, and that would give you 2 dice, Alex.
I ticked the stress.
When you're making an action roll, the other things you can do, you can spend 2 stress to push yourself, which will then either let you get a bonus die or improved effect. And there is the devil's bargain, where you can basically say, I'd like to get an extra die. And I will say, well, I'll give you a die if you let this thing become true. And it's usually a consequence or a wrinkle that will apply regardless of the result of the roll. So it's not like, oh, well, here's this bad thing that will happen if you fail. It's something is going to get more complicated regardless of whether you fail or succeed. So you've got 2 dice. That's a 75% chance of getting at least kind of average or better information.
Okay. How do I even roll?
So you can roll by, on your character sheet, if you mouse over the word consort and then left click, it will give you a pop-up and ask for input value. You can just drop down to fortune roll. And then press submit, and your effect will be standard. And submit bonus die. You'll have 1 from the assist. You would get others if you decided you wanted to ask about a devil's bargain or to push. That is up to you. I would not indicate that I don't think that's going to be too needed.
Okay, then I will just go with 1 and save my stress for later.
Yep, and when you do submit, it should then... Okay.
Oh, I rolled like shit!
All right. I think what this looks like is that Drosten, at least Drosten and Fjord, don't have a whole lot of extra information. But what type of information is Ciaran fishing for?
So Ciaran is mostly fishing for information, especially now that I've seen kind of the state of play for Drosten, and he has made it very clear that he feels like taking on Gearr is risky. I'm back to my original position of let's go get the kid ourselves and then hand him over to Drosten, and then that can be Drosten's thing, and we can kind of go from there. So what I'm mostly fishing for is, and I think the most important factor is that we know that Aiden is hot-headed, but how to draw the kid out into the open where they will have a minimum amount of people with them, so we can, like, you know, knock the retainer out and, you know, throw him over a horse and run off with them.
Right.
Because going into the keep to get them would be really dumb. We're not going to siege the keep yet. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There'll be plenty of time.
I think what Brother Fjord says is, well, if you want to catch her when they're out of the castle, play on Aiden's idealism. What does a noble who believes in nobility do to prove that in their actions? Can you catch her when she's out among the people, when they are being the young noble Gearr, rather than scaling the castle?
Scaling the castle is not the plan.
Okay.
All right. So
I
will not tell them what my plan is because I don't have a fucking plan yet.
Sorry. I was just going to say, Drosten, Do you know anything about how well Aiden gets along with her mother? You said hot-headed. The last time I thought of 16-year-old hot-headed people, they tend to react this way against those who hold them back. Usually figures of authority.
Drosten kind of turns to Fior again. As far as I know, they are as much antagonistic with their mother as any child of nobility may be. Brianna has expectations of Aiden, and in response, Aiden has her frustrations with their mother. I do not believe that they would draw blades on one another or something like that.
No.
But if you could find a way to make a wedge between them, good luck finding the position to do so in White Beam without having your head taken. But yes, a child and their mother at that age, there cannot help but be some chasm.
I wondered whether or not Aiden ever spends time visiting their people without bringing the parents involved. Perhaps gathering information of their own, you might say.
Certainly. I think here, let's jump to Harvest, talking with Fior and or Isbael.
Give me the précis on Isbael again.
Sure. So I'm going back here. Isbael is kind of a wolfish, indeterminate age between 30s and 50s, like fairly well preserved, but clearly seasoned, fairly lean. My casting for Isbael is Ellie Jackson, who's most known as the performer La Rue. So kind of like swooped mohawk hair, which I think is, it's like, because we're in fantasy, it is like dyed a brighter red than it should be able to be, and kind of has the swooped forward and up to a wave, and they are fairly flashy among Drosten's bandits.
Yeah, so I think Harvest, as all this is happening, all this conversation between Drosten and Ciaran is happening, goes over to those two and says, anywhere fella can get a drink around here?
Isbael kind of looks at or did you bring your big sword club?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
That is absolutely strapped to my back.
Kind of looks at the weapon and kind of scratches their chin and like, the damage you could do with that thing. Huh.
Harvest just kind of grins and is like, wouldn't you like to know?
I'd like to know from over, and like Isbael kind of playfully walks over to slightly behind you and says, I would be happy to do so from here.
Can I just like demolish a tree?
Absolutely. Let's see that roll.
Okay, so what is that roll going to be? Is that just a straight up skirmish?
There is not a destroy action in this game. So I think
there's no devastate tree.
I think you'll probably have the greatest impact with skirmish. I would also completely let you roll a social here because it's about making an impact with the people, right?
I have 2 in skirmish and 1 in consort.
Yeah.
I also have force multiplier. I don't really want to spend stress on this, but I'm gonna request that force multiplier lets me do this thing.
Yeah, I think fictionally.
Yeah, in terms of fictional positioning, yeah.
Yeah, so do you want to make a roll to see the impact in terms of like how impressive is it?
Sure, I'll roll skirmish 2d6.
Yeah.
Okay. Risky standard, no bonus. I got a 1 and a 4, so.
Okay. So I think you bring down a tree, which just on a baseline level is an incredible feat. And so like kind of, is this like straight, is it like a horizontal cut? What does it look like as Harvest demolishes this
I
tree?
think it's a horizontal cut. So for context for the viewers, Harvest has a huge sword that is basically, Buster Sword style, like half club, half sword. It does have a sharpened edge. Again, Harvest was an executioner. This was an executioner's blade. It is designed for a chopping motion that will just, it has no tip. It has a blunt end. So I think this is a slicing motion into a tree that's designed to crack it and knock it over as much as it is designed to cut into it.
Okay. So yeah, I think you cut through. I think if you'd gotten a 6 or a crit, you'd get to do the samurai movie thing if you cut through and it doesn't move. But you cut through and it kind of leans and then crashes. You rolled well enough that it's like not going to threaten anybody. Okay. It is pretty impressive. I think Isbale goes over and like hops up onto the felled tree and sits down, and then offers you a flask to come and join them.
Yeah, I take the flask and say, "Thank you. That is thirsty work."
So yeah. What approach are you taking to like get information or ingratiate yourself
I think
here?
I'm going to start having conversation with Isbale. That's very much like, them over there by that fire. They have their games, they have their talk, but you know how it is. When things actually need to get done, it's down to people like you and me. Whether it's cutting trees, whether it's breaking camp or breaking heads. You know what it takes to get things done, right?
If I didn't, I wouldn't be here. And like,
so these
kind
gears
of pulls a bit of their jerkin back to see a scar that if it were 2 inches higher, probably would have cut their neck.
And I think Harvest is like, dang, I'm gonna have to hear that story one day. But these gears, what's their whole deal? Like, they tough? So I think this is gather information, and specifically what I'm looking for is what's the danger here? Like, what's their military capacity? What kind of resistance can we expect? Sure. Any specific we get about who and how and where they'd be most vulnerable.
Okay, cool. And what action is this going to be?
I think that's a consort.
Yeah, sounds like a consort to me. I think because you succeeded with the tree, you're going to have increased effect.
Okay. Anything I can do to get an extra dice here, devil's bargain, or push myself?
I think the devil's bargain is that Isbale and or others in Drostan's bandits are going to find out more about you than you might want to let on.
Harvest is a little unsubtle about those things, isn't real good at hiding where they come from and what their past is. So I'm good with that. So
okay. So yeah, I think to be really clear, that they will know you clearly as a royal executioner.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to be clear about that. So yeah, that's worth a die.
And one that specifically was absolutely at some point measuring Drostan's neck up for size.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, that extra dice didn't really get me anything. That's a 3 and a 1.
Okay. So on a 3, normally you get lesser information, but you rolled with greater effect. So I think I'm going to go ahead and give you standard information here. It's being a little nice, but sure, we're just getting started. Something that Isbale knows is that there's chatter about a standing royal army. It hasn't happened yet, but there's been rumors of conscriptions, of levies, of new taxes. And they connect it to Gearr being kind of having been married into the royal house. And what they say is, if there's an army with the Crobhan flag on it, you know that every set of orders that gets written will pass through Gearr hands. The Lolaires are the crown. Theirs is the splendor. But the brighter you shine, the longer shadows you cast, right? Gearr is the shadow, and they are comfortable there. If you hit them, they will come back at you from behind, from the side at night. If you're going to stick them in the gut, you'll need to watch your back. Executioner.
I think Harvest elbows Rowan once again and is like, that's what you're here for, right?
So yeah, Brandon, has Rowan been in this conversation, another conversation? What's their approach to this whole scene?
So I'm torn between two things that I wanted to do very badly, which is either strike up a separate conversation with the thief that I would have narrowly shot, or just generally try to like listen and gather general information about the group in particular, in part because I was just thinking about a connection that was not like aware, like I wasn't consciously aware of until just now, which is that Drostan's Bandits has a tentative alliance with the Fenag Witches.
That's true.
Which one of said witches, Roz, is an ally of mine. So I feel like either that's like a talking point that I'm using to leverage information, to leverage a connection with one of these thieves, or a reason for me to just kind of just generally want to get a better understanding of this group in particular.
Sure. I think maybe the way to do that is you might see a charm of protection on the belt or on like a necklace loop of one of the bandits that you would be able to tell is Roz's work. What do you think like a protection charm would look like from those witches?
I think it varies in terms of materials, in that there are like all of them work more or less the same, but with like a mildly extended effect based on the materials used, from like runes carved on stone that are made into a very kind of haphazard kind of charm, all the way to precious or semi-precious metal being deliberately molded. And I think as a result that they have something that is closer in quality to mine, but I have a better quality one that Roz had given me previously. And I like actually kind of raise it up and show it to them so they can see it.
Okay. Cool. I think this, I'm just going to make a note to myself because I'm going to pull an extra name here. Where did my big list of names go? Oh, well. So this is Keely, who is maybe 20, and a fairly small woman with close cut black hair. And you chat with her a little bit and learn that she, like, her background is not uncommon to you. She was a farmer's daughter and wanted a better life. And when violence came through her town, violence came through her town and left, and then so did she. And she is from the part of the kingdom where those witches were based. So she's traveled around and knew Roz and those witches. And then she asks, so how do you know Roz?
There was a time when I was young, I was at my lowest. I'm sure you know when you feel like the world is already against you, you try to push back against the world, and you notice that the world kicks you harder than you can kick it. Roz nursed me back to health during those times. Told me anytime I needed any assistance at all, I could come back to the witches and ask for anything that I needed, and Roz would give it without even asking a question. It's one of the few times I think anybody's ever genuinely shown me what other people would call love.
That sounds like Roz. That Roz is she, her?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. And then Keeley says, when I visited her, she had a litter of kittens she was fostering and a bird with a broken wing.
I would have met her around the same time when that litter was much smaller. You must have met them when they were in the dozens, perhaps. But he had a pet eagle that I know had since gotten sick. Have you ever seen it?
Eagle. She was the eagle's name Rose.
Yes.
She said, "Oh, my friend Rose is out hunting."
That thing was monstrous. I've seen it take out big cats without even blinking. Go straight for the throat while they were still alive and just tear it into shreds. It's a marvelous beast. Only a witch can train animals to be that raw. One of these days, I'm gonna ask if Roz knows how to fight. I suspect she does.
I don't know that I would want to be there to see how a witch does war if she has friends like Rose and friends like you.
Friends like you too.
On a good day. I'd like to think I earned that.
So, how do you feel about this business, banditry?
My options were try to pretty up and marry an eldest child, go work on a farm, bear some children. This is more dangerous, but not that more dangerous than farming in a world where death is an abomination ready to happen. And here, there's more people looking out for me.
Do these people feel like family then?
I didn't have a great time with family. But these people I would kill for and die for.
That's good. I'm glad to hear another wayward soul like me has something worth killing for. And if you ever want to add another name to that, I'd be glad to join in any battle for you if you're a friend of Roz like I am.
Well, then whatever it is you're going to do for the Splendour, come back and tell us the story. Watch your back if Roz can't be here to do it for us.
And I just kind of I flick the edge of my charm just so both of us can hear it ring into the air and say, Roz is always looking out for us.
I'd add a detail if it's okay, because I
Mhm.
think the ring sounds like Roz singing, holding a note.
Yes. And it always
Yes.
sounds different every time that you do it, but like it sounds like Roz is actually there. And
Yeah,
both
it's like, you know, it's like here it is like a bright, like kind of a bright, like held C.
Mhm.
At times it seems like it's faster, slower, minor, major. It's magic. Um, but now it feels like it's reflecting your mood and maybe happy that to see another of its own.
Mhm. And like I'd even say that like the sound of it ringing just kind of reverbs against Keely's charm as well. Both of us just kind of like silently take in that sound, like because it feels like we are still at Roz's place being taken care of.
Yep,
And then
that's very cool.
I skip over to Ciaran and I shout back to Keely. And perhaps if we need you on this mission, I'll put in a good word.
And she says, "Oh, I get around quite a lot. It's hard to track. Oh, guards, they're looking for someone big and strong, and then they look right over my head."
This is good. I just salute and move back over to
Yeah,
Ciaran and
I think Keely is like 5-0.
yeah, this is
Um,
good. Cause like
okay,
that's like just a bit shorter than Rowan, so yeah.
right. Okay. So yeah, y'all have made some friends. You're definitely in a position to get some sort of assistance on this sortie. But I will ask now, with this info, what is the plan? What are you going to try and do?
I think I specifically pulled Venner aside to read him in on the situation with the levies and this particular family's relationship to the crown and all of that. That seems like Venner's circle of information that would be, yeah.
Yeah, and this all squares pretty well, Greg, with what Venner experienced, that Gearr is a very politically savvy house, exerting a bunch of influence. And I think Fiona and Maedoc had already married when Maedoc launched his ploy. And so like those two had already kind of made their bargain and their alliance. And so, yeah, if there is going to be an army, you're going to expect that it'll have the cunning of the Gearr as well as the kind of power of the Lolaire.
So, so then I would say probably my guess is we would all, the four of us, want to kind of assemble, maybe to talk before we bring like I would ask if Drosten to just give us a couple of minutes just to sort of chat over things, if that sounds good, and then try to bring Harvest and Rowan and Ciaran and myself together to try to figure out what we want to propose that Drosten do, because I have a thought about it, but I want to, that would be what I would suggest we try to do, if that's cool with everyone.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Cool
good
with me.
idea.
I similarly have like an approach question that I'd like to ask. So yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I guess that would be the thing. So I think probably Harvest would give me that information just before this, like say, hey, this is the stuff we need to know. So that means the only one that I haven't heard from would be Rowan, and I probably would ask Rowan just what did you find out before I get into my thought, and then ultimately it's going to be Ciaran's call, obviously. But I would start by, I think I would just ask like, so did you find anything while you were out and about, Rowan?
More about this crew, these folks you call your friends, just so happen to be mine as well, which is more useful to me than anything that we can learn about House Gearr personally. I think we are all in agreement that it would be foolhardy for us to try to scale a castle gate. So it would be much better for us to take advantage of the resources that we have right now. Unassuming folk who, if we dress them in enough finery and give them sharp orders, can very well be more useful in the open. I overheard you mentioning earlier perhaps an outdoor sortie, snatching the kid in broad daylight. I like this, and I think we can create a certain situation that would be favorable, depending on what we know, depending on what Drosten already knows, and perhaps fears about House Gearr.
And so Venner nods and says, I think that will work. I have a plan, but I must tell you, and I look over at Ciaran, I must tell you, cousin, that if Drosten's going to go along with it, it may require you to promise him more than you might do otherwise, because it's going to be putting his own people at some risk.
I will be interested to see what he asks for. As obviously right now, I have little to give, but in the future, there may be more to negotiate over.
He nods and he says, and Venner says, Drosten is smart enough to know that he's not going to get anywhere with Maedoc on the throne. Eventually, between them and Gearr, they're going to do what they can to remove anyone who's a potential threat. And Drosten is not loyal to them. Not that he was ever really loyal to you either, but at least he didn't challenge you directly. That's our advantage, but it's not going to last long. Drosten, by the time he falls under the sway of Maedoc and the rest of them, when Maedoc decides it's time to move against the rest, Drosten is going to find himself wiped out and going to lose himself as an advantage for us. So this is my thought. And I kind of look at everyone and I say, out in the open, Rowan, that's what you said, and I agree. But it can't be us out in the open, or rather, we're not supposed to be the ones that they're looking at directly. It works this way. So I kind of immediately sketch out, in the practiced way of leaping way out of the game for a moment, a basketball coach or football coach sketching out X's and O's on the, like this kind of thing. I'm like,
yeah.
My thought is this. We all dress more or less the same way. That is, we put together what we can and make ourselves look like a army, not a big one, perhaps the vanguard for a larger force. We wait until Aiden is out gathering with the rest of their people. If we're right, if I'm right, that Aiden has some problems, that means that Aiden doesn't want to constantly stay inside, there's going to be a moment where Aiden is out with not a very large group of security around them. That's when Drosten and their people, disguised as part of this army, attack, or seem to. They attack the front, the security engages them. I'll be with that force myself. In the meantime, and I look over at Rowan, you work your, what would you call it, magic? And you, and perhaps Harvest, do what you can to address the situation from the rear. Harvest's job is to take out any remaining security that stays with Aiden. And, Harvest, when I say take out, I mean just them. That means not Aiden on top of it. And I kind of raise my eyes as if to be like, while you're out cutting down trees, as I would have no way of knowing, but I'm just going to assume, please don't kill two people as one tree,
I mean, I think you heard it. I don't think.
Okay, good. I assumed it was you, right? So I just assumed. So I just do that, and I'm like, so Harvest, just the one security that's with them, not Aiden. You follow?
I know what kidnapping means.
So I would
borrowing.
I would say that mechanically, getting enough people to be able to do that type of feint is going to require some substantial action, because you probably need to raise a levy to have enough people to pose a credible military threat if you're talking about a force like facing the keep of House Gearr.
So my thought wasn't that. My thought was gathering enough information that we can figure out when Aiden is out from behind the safety of those walls and with a relatively limited security retinue. The idea being that there's a group of people, a group of army, again, like a vanguard, a scout force, something, which is going to challenge that security force with Aiden and occupy them. While they're doing that, then the kidnapping happens elsewhere. My thought is doing this outside of the fortress. Because I agree, like, I don't even know that Drosten, even if Drosten committed all of his forces, would even have enough to do this. So my thought was basically being kind of a relatively limited but effective guerrilla force that would seem to be a sort of like, oh crap, they're trying to, like, basically what we're doing is they're coming after Aiden. And they are, but not from the direction that they think. And while they're focused on the frontal group, then Harvest and Rowan are dealing with stuff from behind. I have purposely not mentioned Ciaran yet, and I assume at some point Kieran's going to be like, where am I in this? At which point I'm probably going to be like, too dangerous, but we'll get into that. Anyway,
so in the pursuit of moving forward,
you don't have to keep doing it. That was my thought.
I think getting characterization here is good, and going slow to start, I think, is fine. Is this a deception plan because you have a method of cover or a feint that you're using? Or is this an assault plan with a point of attack that you're then making sneakier?
I mean, mechanically, I'm better at assault than deception, but narratively, I mean, Venner is not an idiot, right? Venner is not going to be like, the only way to attack is from the front with full horns blaring. Like, I'm not going to be that. So I would assume, but I am definitely want it to be like a disciplined military action, not just a, thief in the night thing. But again, I keep looking at Rowan and Harvest because I know about the combat ability, and Rowan because I'm like, you do this kind of thief thing, right? Like that sort of thing. Like you've done thieves, bandit things before. So that's kind of my assumption.
So I will offer an alternative suggestion. It would be best for Aiden to come to us themselves.
Oh.
And as has been mentioned, that perhaps, of their sort of airs of nobility and belief in themselves and what they think they can do. And perhaps, as all people of that age, they wish to distinguish themselves from their parent. I wonder if perhaps rather there is a rumor that they could be fed that would compel them to wish to venture out, perhaps not on their own, but with a small force to secure glory for themselves.
You mean to get rid of Drosten's men?
I was actually thinking that we could suggest they could capture a deposed monarch who had returned to these shores, but I'm willing to be flexible.
I don't think it's a good idea to reveal your presence here yet.
This is where I perhaps chime in and emphasize that the magic that you so strangely suppose I am capable of is simply ensuring that things are not as they appear. It is the same skill that Drosten has, and that is the minor modification that I would make to your strategy. That even if there is a forward attacking force, those who approach from behind are not threatening at all. That we appear as if we're lending a hand to young Aiden, either to escape or to achieve whatever their goal is, while their security is being otherwise consumed.
So I kind of cross my arms with a smug smile and I lean back and I'm like, so perhaps a tree cutter then. And I look at Harvest with a slight smug expression.
Indeed. I also kind of like nudge Harvest in the shoulder. Someone does all the heavy, obvious swinging in the front. Aiden rushes down some side streets in an attempt to escape harm, and some unassuming folk, wait by a corner and offer them refuge, and even an opportunity to do that which they seek while no one else is looking, to seek their glory alone. And then when the door closes behind them, you would have succeeded.
Point me in the right direction.
So you've got a few different approaches. What is Ciaran's decision?
Well, it sounds like everybody, all of my faithful retainers are on board with Venner's approach. So I will go with that because I don't feel like arguing with all of them. I just wanted to throw out the idea. Besides, that way if it's a fucking disaster, maybe next time they'll listen to me.
Well, but I do want to say with Venner, like, Venner's only real concern, I mean, is the idea that you would be positioning yourself as that is not going to go over well from Venner's point of view. Like, the idea, I think my view would be that Venner would be a little bit skeptical that we could get Aiden to come out and, you know, do all this stuff on their own. But I don't think Venner's totally opposed to that idea. But Venner would very much be opposed to the idea that Ciaran was going to be the bait. That would not go over well with Venner for whatever that's worth. But
well, if we can find other bait that a hot-headed 16-year-old who wants to prove himself to mommy would take, that would be a way to perhaps get them a little further away from home.
Okay.
You got it, Bandit Prince.
I mean, to be fair, Drosten doesn't have to know we're using him as bait because the whole point is when Aiden gets there, Drosten's not going to be there. We'll be there.
Okay. So which detail are you going to use and what, and then we will figure out the approach that goes with that. Is this about finding the right place to strike? Is it about riling up a crowd? Is it about figuring, like, creating a method of cover, a way of like sneaking somewhere or disguising yourself? Is it about a social connection to set up a conversation? Is it an entry point for infiltration, or is it a means of containment for siege? It's probably not a siege.
No. I mean, I feel like it's either going to be finding the connection to draw Aiden out, or finding the appropriate place to capture them.
Sure. I'm
just not sure which.
This might be a place where it makes sense to do recon closer to your target.
Yes.
So we can skip over the conversation with Drosten and flash back to it as needed. And maybe somebody can make a roll to try to get specifically a detail that y'all want to use unless you already have a detail in mind. I think that is what will let us get to the engagement roll and then into the action of the kidnapping.
Okay. I am willing to volunteer for that role because I mean this is the kind of recon I think Rowan is accustomed to doing in the first place.
Yeah. So how does Rowan try to kind of create a moment or find out more to pull this off?
So I suspect the thing that Rowan specifically is looking for is either a regular opportunity that Aiden already travels by themselves, or something that is easily manipulable. It's something that is easy to manipulate about Aiden's ideology that would lead them to be willing to leave the castle by themselves with a small entourage. And I'm leaning towards the latter because it means that that catalyst is in our control. We know whether they're going to leave the castle or not because we made them leave. So I'm looking for an opportunity to essentially manipulate them into feeling like they need to leave the castle with either a small guard or no guard at all.
So would you say that you're hunting a target, gathering information about its location and movements?
I would.
Yes. Oh. There we go.
I think that's the hunt action.
It is. So that's what I'm going to do.
So I think because House Gearr is higher tier than y'all are, there is going to be risk here. So if this roll doesn't go as well, then that's going to impact kind of the situation. But this is, I think, the thing that will give you a detail. And if you roll well here, it will set you up to have a great engagement roll.
Cool. So what is my position?
So your position is risky. I think to get enough information to make a detail, you will probably have to really play the game instead of just being able to, like, it's shots where you have to like sneak around to get close to some things and overhear people, maybe more than just looking from a distance is maybe the difference between controlled and risky. I think at controlled, you'd need some other way of getting a bonus effect to get enough information.
Okay. And my effect would be?
I think it's standard at risky unless you have something else that will improve your effect.
I don't think I do. So yeah, I'm willing to stand by standard.
Okay.
I am going to push myself for 1 extra die.
Okay. Yeah. The better you do here, the easier the sortie is, theoretically.
Yeah. So me spending a little bit of effort so no one else has to seems like my style.
Okay. So that would give you 3 dice. So a 4, 5, and a 2. So that is, you're going to get a standard information, and you are looking for, I feel like the way I can do this is over the course of a couple of days, you study kind of Aiden's coming and going in terms of when do they leave the keep. And you discover that Aiden does leave the keep, but it's not the same time. And when she does, she always seems angry. So this is like, kid gets angry at their parent and storms off. But because this is fantasy nobility, it is, they get on a horse and ride off, and 2 armed riders always follow. And
outstanding.
that those are Aiden's honor guard. And so that is a detail that you can use for a sortie.
Okay, so to clarify, they're always leaving the castle upset.
Yes.
But I don't know anything particularly about any of the triggers that have recently caused that frustration.
Right, but I think I'm fine to say the engagement roll will cover finding the next moment and then being in a position to act on it.
Okay, nice. Cool.
So Forge in the Dark games have an engagement roll generally, which is a mechanic that I love. So when you make an engagement roll, you end the recon phase and you posit a detail which will let you take an approach. So for an assault plan, you need a point of attack. And you have learned that Aiden will be outside of the castle in a more vulnerable position, seemingly once a day. And you have enough supplies to be able to kind of do a stakeout. And then we will build a die pool to see how well your plan starts out when we cut to the action. So the engagement roll will determine your initial position, controlled, risky, or desperate. You always start with 1 die for sheer luck, and you get, in this game, they say 1 die for every major advantage and you lose 1 die for every major disadvantage. So we'll go through the list. Major advantages. Is this a particularly bold or daring approach?
I mean, if we're like snatching the kid like right outside from under their noses,
Yeah, you don't get much more bold than that.
That feels
broad daylight.
Yeah.
You have help from friends or contacts. I think Droston will send, I think 3 people with you, Keeley and 2 others.
Nice.
are you hitting the target where they are weakest?
I mean,
Outside the keep?
Outside the keep with only 2 retainers, that's as
listen,
weak as Aiden's gonna
Yeah.
get.
And
Unless they're like taking a poop.
With the classic, you can't control me, Dad. Mom, I'm going where I want. The perfect, the classic.
We're attacking a mildly armed child outside the castle, I think.
Bad people.
Yep. I think, so that will get you to 4.
Mm-hmm.
However, the target is a higher tier. So that's going to lose 1 die. So you're going to go back to 3. The plan is not overly complicated. But I'm going to say that you do lose a die for interference, but I'm not going to say exactly what that is yet because your gather information roll did only get a 5. So there is a consequence.
Okay.
All right.
You are
each of the guards is themselves 10 guards within the guards. Like it's just like it's all just a bunch of squirrels inside armor. Like, oh man.
So you had 4, and I'm going to take away 2, and so you're still going to have 2 for your engagement roll.
Okay.
Can we like do assists on these or pushes or stress? Or
I'm reevaluating because I feel like you did enough to be in a position to have 3 dice.
I like
so
3's good.
Yeah, pretty solid.
I think you're following up on preparations, and I'm going to give you 1 more die because you did several different types of gather information about the overall landscape to get you to this point. So, Alex, do you feel like rolling 3 dice here, or is this Greg rolling 3 dice because it's Venner's plan?
I think it's Greg rolling 3 dice so that it's his fault.
Okay, I was gonna say, great. It's me rolling the dice so I can be blamed. Lovely.
It's your plan. You could have gone with my shitty plan instead.
my plan has taken some adjustment. I'm gonna put all the blame off on Brandon somehow if it doesn't work. And be like, you didn't tell me the 3rd bit of it. I'm joking. I'll just figure out a way to. No, Venner. Listen, Venner for all whatever Venner is. Venner will take the fault for things that get screwed up. All right. So I'm rolling 3 dice, and it's it's
just a fortune roll.
It's just a fortune roll.
Yep.
Okay.
You should see a roll fortune button.
Yeah. No, I rolled it once
that?
before. Okay, so 3 dice.
I see. There's roll fortune.
Notes. Not my fault.
This is why I love putting the note in for fortune rolls.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Not my fault. All right, here we go. Shadowed is here. Shadowed again. Thank you for this great overlay, Shadowed.
Yes,
really
thank you, Shadowed.
Came out super
Thank you.
well. All right. And,
I will also idly tell you, Greg, that this also means if you crit, you didn't crit, everyone else did.
Oh, okay.
It's not your
I
fault.
think Rowan gets the credit on its success.
Yeah.
My fault, but potentially my
Only my fault if it fails.
success.
Just 3 lines of disclaimers.
Oh man.
All right, let's roll the
This
dice.
should not be assumed legal advice. All right. 5, 6, and 2, baby. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Like I
So-
said, potentially my
Good.
success. Question mark, underline.
When you roll a 6 on an engagement roll, the sortie begins in a controlled position. So all of your legwork is going to put you in a great position, and we are going to take just a short break to use the restroom, top off water. I'm going to do a little bit of braining about exactly how we open, and then we'll see if the retinue can kidnap a noble. So stick with us. We'll be back in just a minute.
We'll be back in just a minute, chat. Thanks, everybody. And again, Speculate listeners, thank you for being with us. And Twitch listeners, thank you for watching us. We'll be back in just a minute. Hold tight.
Okay, yeah, quick bio.
Okay, we are back, and I'm going to bring us back over to reveal the crew, which is now... Oh, I just noticed that people have been moved around. Just a moment. I want to make sure that we're actually have everyone in the right place. No, not playing me.
All right.
Aha!
So
No, not
I
quite.
will be a distraction.
Yes, please be a distraction. Okay, I almost fixed it. Almost.
Our retinue rolled well on the engagement roll, so they are going to begin in a controlled position, and I think it looks like this. Between Venner and Rowan, y'all have found a great ambush point. The woods outside of Gearr Keep are old woods. It is kind of neighbor to the kind of the great orchard, which is renowned in Whitebeam, and this is an older wood, and so it has twists and winds. And Rowan, you were able to see, where Aiden does and doesn't go, and you found a posting that kind of Venner agreed on, where the woods twist, and Aiden likes to show off with their horse and take a sharp turn. And so you have an ambush point where most of the party can be around that switchback, and there is cover for Rowan to come around the back once Aiden has cleared the turn. And so we cut in from seeing from behind, the most of the retinue stepping onto or on the path as Aiden and their guards have rounded and realized that there is someone there.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Actually, I also have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Go with your question first, Alex, and then
Okay.
I thought about how to
Am I there? Because I feel like Venner would have shit himself. Well, Venner, you can shit yourself
God.
because I am the monarch and you don't get to tell me what to do.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
I assumed that you weren't just going to stay back. I'm just expressing this is a terrible idea,
It's okay. They've put me at the back of the group with a plastic sword so I can't hurt myself, but I get to feel like I'm contributing.
Plastic sword. Oh man.
Go ahead.
So I have a proposal on how to kick this whole thing off, because Aiden's going to be there with 2 guards, right?
Yeah, and so the guards are pretty broad-shouldered. They've got chain shirt and hauberk, and I think they're riding with short halberds, and then they also have they have arming swords. So they're pretty loaded for bear, but it is just 2 of them.
So I want to propose an anime bullshit moment.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So, Rowan, could you perform a setup action that allows me to get close enough to unhorse both of these dudes with my big ass sword?
Would actively be my goal, because essentially I'm aiming for one of 2 things by the time you have actually engaged the guards, which is you either soundly dismount both of these guards and engage in very overwhelming combat against them, or you do something so flashy that even if you do not dismount them, you're the only person there that has their attention.
Yeah, that is also my goal. So
yes.
If you have a setup action, which should give me a +1d heading into mine, there's a bunch of bullshit that I can do. I think that will make this fun.
Sorry, daughter is calling. Give me 1 second. I apologize.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So the thing that I think stands out in this...
Oh, I was going to say, if you guys are planning your anime bullshit, I can wait until you're done with your anime bullshit.
Okay.
Okay, fair enough. So in the spirit of anime bullshit, I think part of the setup is actively attempting to make you look as flashy and as menacing as possible. So I think the thing that I've set up is, while I am still elsewhere, because the thing that I have in mind is that the people who should be guiding Aiden away should be the most unassuming as possible. And I have Keely, myself, and one other of Drostan's folks in that position. But I've already prepared for Harvest to come forward in a costume that has been designed specifically to make you look as hostile as possible. I'm thinking, like, this is not literally what it looks like, but its objective is, what if the Grim Reaper was covered head to toe in sequins and therefore was unavoidable from any point at which moonlight can hit it? And you are essentially just charging towards these guards at top speed, about to do whatever violence you are prepared to do. But I have essentially made it so that they will immediately see you and immediately hear you, and that you have been set to approach precisely at the point where, if Aiden's showing off goes badly, Aiden's horse will be severely injured in the flashiness of it all.
So what I'm hearing is that Rowan has provided a wheelbarrow and a Holocaust cloak.
Why didn't you list that in our assets in the first place?
Yeah, so Brandon, what action are you using for the setup?
So I think... So this is the hilarious part, right? Either this is somewhere in flashback territory and I've essentially swayed to get these kinds of resources from nearby craftsmen, or I have crafted it, which I have no dots in and would like to avoid. This is the part where Mike decides I'm going to craft anyway.
Would it be a finesse, actually? Because employ subtle misdirection.
That would also be useful. I have no dots in finesse either.
Or sway, maybe. Maybe sway is the thing that makes sense, because that's disguise.
I mean, is the angle that I was kind of going for, but also that my work in that action has been attempting to get the resources necessary for you to do your part. At which point you will probably also finesse or skirmish, but at your leisure.
I think I would be okay with sway if you tick subterfuge supplies as gear, you or harvest. Then
I will tick it because it's mine.
And it's subterfuge, but the opposite.
Yes.
It's ostentatiousness supplies.
Yes, is the goal. So yeah, I will roll sway then.
Okay.
My question.
So I'm gonna check in about load first, and then I'll get to your question, Alex. So in Rebel Crown, there's only two types of load. There's no light load. Normal load gives you 5 boxes of gear, which is the equivalent of normal load in Blades in the Dark. You could take heavy, which gives you up to 8 boxes, but then the retinue will, for every person that takes heavy load, the retinue will get 1 fewer coin because you required a bunch of upkeep for all of your stuff. So it's a big jump from 5 to 8 with heavy. And so I asked about it in chat, and I wanted to be clear about that. Heavy armor is 2 extra boxes on top of 1 box for normal armor.
It's 2 extra. Okay.
So you could get two resists with armor for a total of 3 boxes of load.
Because I mean, like, I think I would take normal load. The only thing I'm wondering about is the stuff that I have that I see there. Probably the only thing would be I would take a fine soldier's weapon. I would take the treatise on philosophy I would have, but that doesn't count for load, it says. I take shield, armor, and heavy, but the question is about the horse versus I don't think I need a warhorse or anything like that, but I probably would also be wearing heavy armor as my guess.
So
if you're wearing heavy armor, you need to have a warhorse. I would say, just
I guess so. Yeah,
make
that's
more
true.
sense.
That's going to be hard then because
Generally-
that means just heavy armor and a warhorse. That's
generally,
basically-
in a forged game, you don't have to mark anything until you're using it or it's being spotlit on screen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it makes all of this a lot easier.
Okay.
It's very
Occasionally
versatile in that regard.
Occasionally,
Wait.
there are moments where it's like, wait, like, and we have to do a little bit of retconning, but I'm fine to leave that space and to leave y'all with the flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, we use what we use, and if it means we get less money, we get less money. But the thing I was going to ask, actually, instead of just, you know, like putting me in the back with a squeaky plastic sword, since I would assume that there aren't actually that many horses, probably, especially among the bandits, because horses are expensive and require a lot of upkeep. Probably what you would have wanted to do if you're going to give me a job at all is put me on a horse in case Aiden runs for it.
Yeah, because you can ride after.
Because I can ride.
That's true. Yeah, that probably is one that would make me be a little bit less. I'd be like, all right, good, as long as you can get away fast. Okay.
So that gets back to the sway.
Yes.
So Brandon, your position is controlled because y'all got a 6 on the engagement roll. And
Okay.
if you are using subterfuge supplies to make Harvest look scary, I think that would have great effect because Harvest already seems like they're in a position to look scary. And so you're making it more so.
Good.
That they are even more scary. So that's controlled, great, which is a good place to start when you are rolling dice.
Do I want to push myself? I do.
Alex, I would say if you are sticking with that tactician ability, this could be a place where Ciaran, or this was always the plan. And then if you have an idea of how Ciaran could help either with the setup action or with what Harvest is doing, this would be a great time to use that tactician ability.
I'm sure that I could have oh God, how could I have helped with that? I mean, I could have helped you just make it because my God, I've got a pair of hands and it's not like I'm doing anything else.
Yeah,
It's also perfectly possible that you helped pay for or otherwise physically acquire them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am I have very little money, but I still have more money than you. So yes, we'll go with
the
that.
idea that maybe Ciaran, as someone who came from nobility, you've seen a lot of plays, and you kind of get how stage costuming works.
Ooh.
In a way that Rowan and I, having never seen a play, don't.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I like it. We'll get you some feathers. We'll make you look big.
Top tier
Flashy.
stagecraft. I love it.
cool.
Makeup
So,
on you.
Alex, if you mark one of your tactician uses, one of 2, I think it will be, then Rowan would get a +1d.
Okay, where is
Okay.
that?
So
Do I want to
under
take
your-
this on top of my own stress, or do I just want this to be the thing?
So Alex, in the text box for tactician, you should be
Okay.
able to click it, and it is an editable form.
Oh, okay. So I can just go to one.
So you can just
out of two.
replace this. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
That's why
got
I've
it.
done it.
Hey, Mike, before the next session, can you make it so that we can all see each other's
Sheets.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Not
can do
something
that.
you have to do now, but
Yeah, I will do that. Okay, so
Right. So I
Ciaran
will
is
push.
assisting.
Right. So Ciaran is assisting me for 1 bonus die, and I will push myself for another.
Okay, that would give you 3 dice.
Yes.
Controlled, great for the setup action. Cool.
Okay.
So
Outstanding.
Nice.
normally you don't need to get great effect on a setup action, but what I will say is for these purposes, that if you when you get great effect on a setup action, you will grant 2 of the 3. This is sort of like Beam Saber. Improved position, effect, or a die. So Harvest could take +1d and +1 effect from
Okay.
a great setup action.
yes, I would love a
Nice.
+1d and a great effect. So is there so if I were to, so I think this will be a skirmish, right? In terms of trying to, dehorse these two. Would that be controlled standard, risky standard, or
So
risky
is
grade, I guess?
is this about just knocking them off of their horses? Is it about incapacitating them?
Slicing them in half.
I guess narratively, that's a little bit, I think, your call as to how far I can take this. I mean, I think Harvest is looking to do his primary goal is make it so that they are not able to run away. Secondary goal is make it so they never get up again.
Okay. I think if you want to
specific subset of the first condition.
Yeah, if you want to kill them or take them entirely out of the fight, I think you're still controlled because the fiction indicates that, but they are higher tier and they are fully armored, and it's 2 of them at once.
Okay.
So without applying any abilities or any of your bonuses, you would be at controlled 0 to just with nothing else to completely remove them from the fight.
Okay.
Your assist would get you to controlled limited. And if you have gear, you might get up to controlled standard.
So fine dueling weapon, which I think would get me to controlled standard. And then can I deploy force multiplier? So I'll push myself, take 2 stress, and then I can perform a feat of physical force that verges on the superhuman or engage a small gang on equal footing.
Yep. So I think this, because it's just 2 of them, they are a 6 clock obstacle.
Okay.
And you could get up to controlled great, which would give you 3 ticks on success. So you would get halfway there, which is either severely
disabling them.
Halfway to them being completely out of the scene.
Got it. Okay, separate question. So I also have the ability Courageous, which is when I roll a desperate action, I get +1d. Right. Is there any way to change my positioning so that I am in a desperate position?
I think that is about giving them a shot as you come in. And if you do it just right, it will draw their attention and they'll try to take the shot. And that's exactly what you want them to do. Okay. But it means that if you don't do this perfectly, it will be really bad for you.
Great.
And what that will let you do, because we're doing anime bullshit, is that will give you Desperate Extreme. Okay.
Great. Let's do Desperate Extreme.
All right.
We're just going to go. Harvest might die. Sortie 1. Who cares?
Yeah.
Right. So you've got you've got 2 in skirmish.
So that's 2 in skirmish plus 1 from the assist.
The setup.
When I push myself for force multiply, do I also get the +1d, or is it just let me do it?
I believe this one is push for the ability, not when you push, you can also do this.
Okay. So, and then I get +1d for Courageous.
Correct.
So I'm rolling 4d6 Desperate Extreme.
Yep.
Okay.
Forged in the Dark Games.
Anything else I can do to get another dice here? I can't take a Devil's Bargain because I've already pushed myself, right?
Yeah, I think you would have to get a separate assist. So not the setup, some other assist. And that could be Venner.
Yeah, well, I mean, I originally thought that, what I could do is when the 2 were knocked off, I could basically either command that, like essentially intimidate them, command them to be like, stay down type of thing. Or I could actually attack them. If you're going to do this over 9,000 anime nonsense, then that's totally cool. I don't entirely know what Venner. I think my guess is that narratively Venner would just be like, "What does he do? Why is he doing that kind of thing?" Like what are they doing?
I think 4d6 is pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive. Like,
so I think I'm okay with that.
I think I could see Venner assisting as Venner is also mixing it up. Venner is providing another target.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Cards. Sure.
We'd still really be able to focus the camera on Harvest's anime bullshit. DongWon, if you feel like that's still a scene that you're cool with.
Yeah, that's good by me.
Okay, so
if you're down to take the risk or take the stress.
So that would be one stress for Venner
that's fine.
To assist.
Okay. So that's desperate extreme 5d, or so do I put 3 bonus dice then? So it'll be 5d6 total.
Yes, it should be 3 bonus dice.
5d6. You absolutely positively want 2 people off their horses.
Oh yeah, we're doing this. All right, I am rolling. Ooh, that is
man. We needed all 5. We needed
good thing you did that. Holy crap.
2, 4, 3, and then a 6.
And then a 6.
You needed every one of those dice. So Greg, can you give me a beat of how Venner creates an opening that then DongWon gets to describe exploiting?
Yeah, because I think what would happen is I think because we had talked about that, Harvest would do something of this kind, and then I see that Harvest is doing something which seems like that what do they do? What? And I just at that point realized, like, so I just shing sword out and stride towards them and and just commanding voice ringing across in such a way that this one dude walking towards them as they're on their horses, I imagine they're gonna be like, what, and are like turning half towards me, which means that they are not paying that much attention to Harvest when Harvest over 9,000s them, which is about to happen right now.
The way I'm envisioning this is like, like a FromSoft game, like a Demon Souls game, where there's like a parry window, and I think what Venner does at the last second is increase the parry window for Harvest just to get in there.
Right. Yeah. Which is like. Which I imagine would be, or maybe, in fact, they see you, right, coming in. The last second, I'm like, you, and then they're like, what is this new voice, like that kind of thing. Yeah. So they're still paying attention to the, crazy executioner sword thing, but they've also got Venner, and also definitively not on the horse at that point. I would say I was just striding towards them so that they're also looking down, in my direction. So yes, I would say right at the last second as you're coming in, I do this kind of like, hey, type of thing. So,
okay. So yeah, with a success on extreme, you're going to fill 5 ticks of a 6 clock, DongWon, with that action. So I think for me, that is one of them is out of action and the other is barely holding on. So what does it look like when you wrecking ball through this?
Yeah. So I think the thing is I'm in this very menacing outfit, which I don't know exactly what this thing looks like, but I'm imagining lots of like dark leather and spikes, and it sort of made it to look like an otherworldly creature. Like
I would think you would look like a theatrical conception of a wraith.
Yeah,
that's terrifying.
So. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But that said, I think they still decide that they want to run me down because that's the only thing they do. So they draw their silver weapons, go to run me down in the road, and they're coming at me full tilt. Venner comes in and distracts them very slightly at the last second, which is the window I need. And I leap into the air and do like a spinning scythe attack with this enormous sword. And it slams into one who then goes crashing into the other, which is why the one who takes the first hit is completely out. The second one is badly injured, knocked off his horse, and is recovering from this overwhelming onslaught of an attack.
Now, okay, I'm sorry, because I have a question about that one that's left over, but go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I think the one that got dominoed flies from their horse, hits the ground hard, but is starts to push themselves up and croaks, but with a pretty full voice, "Flee, my liege," to Aiden, who kind of was riding full tilt and sees this happen and pretty expertly is pulling a hairpin turn to basically 180 with her horse and book it back to the castle. So Greg, that's kind of the immediate response.
Rowan would see this too, right?
Rowan is in position to do something about this based on our understanding.
The one who's on the ground, which I'm still thinking I deal with, I want to ask about this. So I have an ability, Brutal, when you unleash physical violence, and I would say, now I've only used my voice to this point, but I'll unleash physical violence if I have to. But anyway, it's especially frightening when you command a frightened target take plus 1d. Now, I don't know about everybody else, but if I just saw Harvest do that, I would be, to use Alex's earlier term, shitting my pants. And I think at that point, that person would be frightened. And I'd be commanding this person, so I'm just asking whether you would agree that this person would be, I'm not saying like terrified, but I'm saying that they're like, the last 5 seconds of their lives have taken a very odd turn for them, is what I'm saying. Would I then be able to unleash Brutal to silence this person saying, flee my liege, or knock them out, or something along those lines?
Are you trying to silence them before they can even get the words out?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think what I would say is you describe how you're unleashing physical violence, and then we can use that as a command roll to finish that clock. And then I think Rowan will be in a position to deal with Aiden.
Okay, so I think what I would do is, what I would basically, I'm trying to decide if I want to be, because I don't think Venner would kill a helpless enemy, but I do think Venner would eliminate the threat of an enemy that's trying to get back up, at which point I think what Venner would do, what I'd like to do, we're in a forest path, because you said knock them off the horse near the trees that are on either side, yes? What a Venner, I think, would like to do, basically using something with Brutal, is basically pick this dude up. Yes, I know they're wearing some kind of armor, and slam them into the tree. Basically to knock them out is the idea.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Yeah. And I'm also kind of pissed off that, like, how dare you get up? Don't get up, like that type of thing. That's what I'd like to do. I don't know whether that's possible or
Yeah, I think you'll all have the numbers that if you didn't have several people at your back, this might be risky, but I do think, I think you can still get controlled here because you are already in it. You're following up really quickly, and you're a veteran soldier.
Yeah, and I might even be a little bit annoyed that this security failed so bad. Like, I've got a professional, like, what is this amateur hour, So anyway,
they are tier 2 guards.
Okay.
So you would not get standard effect by default, but you are in a controlled position. And what I would say is we look at gear or something else to figure out, is there something that will get you up to standard effect? But you only need to fill 1 tick. So limited effect would finish this clock. But if you roll with limited, but then get a consequence, I might take that effect down to 0 and force you to reevaluate.
Right.
Are we tier 1 or are we tier 0? How does it work?
The retinue is tier 1.
Okay.
Because we have, and I'm also thinking about, because I will have 3 dice on this, I think, either way. Well, actually 3 dice. I don't know if you're taking one away for the tier difference, but because I have 2 on command and then I have extra for the Brutal, 1 extra, right. So that's 3.
You would not lose a die for the tier.
It's just you would change the effect. Okay.
Yep.
You can push yourself to take greater effect.
Yes.
Or ask for devil's bargain.
Yeah, you know what? I would push myself. I'll take a stress. Do you take 1 or 2 stress on a push?
2 stress for a push.
Yeah, whatever. Like I'm just like, you know what? No, this ends here. So yeah, I would push myself. Yes. So okay. I would say that's so it brings me up to 4 stress. So that's okay. Slam the guy. So that means, yeah. So now I have pushed myself and I have 3 dice that I'm rolling, unless I'm misunderstanding, but I think that's right.
No, you have the +1d from command, 2 from your action rating, and you have improved your effect with a push. So that is controlled, standard, and you'll have 1 bonus die.
Okay. So controlled, standard, and 1 bonus die.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's see if that all worked. Yeah, okay. Yes, it does.
So you get a 6. Yeah, I think it goes just as you intend, and I feel like because you overfill the clock, you have this guard.
His children back in the village also collapse, like just like sip at the. Oh,
exactly what condition do you want this guard to end up in? Unconscious, cowering.
No, I want them unconscious. No, I don't want them. No. They do not speak again for a while.
So you slam them against the tree, and you feel the weight of all of their armor, basically kind of smushing them, right?
Yeah.
You know, they take a hard hit and slump, and for a moment, the only sound is the pounding of hooves as we cut to Aiden fleeing.
I think I would yell, by the way, just after I do that, I would drop that and be like, Rowan, go! I'd be like, that type of thing, I think is probably what I would do.
And right before we cut, Harvest walks over and says, brutal, and holds out a hand for a fist bump.
Yay.
I think I would, I sort of look down and then I'm like, I do the fist bump, but I would do it gladly though. I'd be like, oh, that was me. you know?
Yeah, I earned this one.
You got to war together. Aiden is a good writer, and so she just is off like a light, Rowan. But you knew that this was a likely result. So what do you do?
So this requires a bit of setup, but I want to hear what Alex had to say first.
I was going to say, I'm there in case Aiden tries to ride off.
Plastic sword at the ready.
Yes, with my plastic sword.
Yeah.
Stab them, and it'll go squeak, squeak.
With my Nerf cannon.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Wait, I've got an idea. Sorry, Brandon.
Oh no, yes, let me hear the idea.
So, because I can ride in pursuit, and I'm probably not as good of a rider as Aiden, but I can ride. I'm a decent rider. We could have scouted out in advance. Here, let me use my other bit of tactician to say, well, we scouted out in advance and found what looks like a good riding path you could convince somebody to try to escape us from, and then strung a rope across it at about chest height.
That sounds like something you could do in a flashback.
So I'll compare that to the thing that I initially had in mind, which is essentially the goal that I had in mind was engineer a circumstance under which if someone told Aiden that they had a plan to keep them safe, Aiden would take it because they have none of their own gods again. So the plan that I initially had in mind was Keely and I would ride up beside and say, hey, these people are going to chase you all the way back to the castle and it's going to be bad news. We have a place where you can hide. Can you follow us? Either that can lead into a trap or that could just lead into a safe house where we just close the doors behind them while they're wondering what happened.
We could set up both just in case one of them doesn't work.
Sure.
Fair enough.
Because like a tripwire might set up Rowan to be in a better position to make that social, or the distraction with the social might set up the trap. How do you want to do that?
I mean, honestly, if we knock Aiden off their horse and the horse keeps running, then Rowan and Keely can ride up and be like, yo, we can help you.
Yes, I like that plan a lot. I like engineering the come with us if you want to live scenario.
Yes.
Especially because we know that Aiden is a good rider, so we may have to mitigate the horse somehow anyway.
So in that case, I would have dressed myself in a not dissimilar way to how we dressed Harvest, and be riding hellbent for leather after Aiden, screaming my head off.
I like that this plan is equal drama kid bullshit and hit someone real hard with a real big sword.
Yeah, you never know which one is which. They're like, well, if it's the LARP Harvest, we're in trouble, but if it's the real, then it's fine. But if we're the real Harvest, yeah.
Yes, I'm the one with the foam sword.
Yeah, you have no way of knowing, right? You're like, it's foam sword. Harvest, like, really? Blah, type of thing.
So
you had to give me the foam sword because my arm is sad.
Is that an assist from Ciaran for Rowan's role? Is it a setup action?
I think it would count as a setup action.
I think
If I'm
so
not
as
mistaken.
well. So that would be, I think, controlled standard for the setup action. You had the time. I would say it's a 1 stress flashback to have kind of set up the rope trap.
Does my tactician come into play for that?
So tactician is so that you can give assists for free.
Okay.
So it will not apply here.
Okay.
But you would be able to assist one other action later on, depending.
Okay.
So which action are you using to kind of lay this trap? Is this craft? Is it hunt? Let me take a look at your sheet and see if I can.
Neither of those are things I have. So really what I'm counting on is that I can ride after this person skillfully enough to keep them, you know, going in the direction I want and riding into my trap.
Okay. I think if it's about the riding, then by default, you would have a limited effect. But if you brought a fine warhorse, then you would absolutely have standard effect.
I will bring my fine warhorse with me.
Okay. So you'd get 1 die to start. You could push yourself to get an extra die. Someone could assist you. You could take a devil's bargain. I do have a devil's bargain in mind.
What's the devil offering?
There's somebody else here, and this is fitting their plan too.
Sure.
Okay,
I'll
great.
Oh no.
That's good.
Wait, no, hold on.
Flashback.
I just talked to W to this.
I'm talking to Ciaran. If you think you have a good plan at some point, don't have a good plan.
Would have been. I would have had such a great opportunity to completely derail this sortie.
I mean, it would have been delightful, but Rowan in universe is going nah.
Okay. Okay. No then.
Okay.
Thank you, devil.
Not today,
Almost
Satan.
got him.
Not today, Satan.
See, I'm listening to my advisors.
So yeah, is that just a 1D?
Well, I'm gonna.
One. Yep.
Well, I've got 1 ride, and then I'm gonna take a point of stress.
So it's 2 stress to push and 1 stress with a flashback.
Sure.
If you were pushing yourself for a die.
Sure.
Okay. So we get the flashback of Ciaran, possibly with some assistance, setting up the trap. We go back to the moment the trap goes up, and we see Ciaran riding hard with a fine warhorse.
Okay. So what am I doing? Like.
So you're going to roll ride.
Mm-hmm.
Your position is controlled.
Okay.
And your effect is standard, and you're going to have 1 bonus die from the push.
Okay.
Okay. So you get you have standard effect. It is a setup action. I think the consequence is what should the consequence be?
There's another person here. No.
Exactly.
I think
Whose plan is served? Oh.
But I said no to the devil.
And the person is actually the fine warhorse. Oh, God.
It's a controlled consequence. So I think I'm going to start a clock that is Aiden's suspicion and tick it once, as they feel like something is not quite right with the way that they're being pursued. And this is a 4 clock of alarm/disbelief.
Okay.
You can resist this consequence, or possibly Rowan could resist this consequence. But it's 1 tick out of 4. So it's not, it will not massively change the world state yet.
Yes, I am prepared to wrestle with resisting that consequence as we move forward, because Rowan and Keely are now getting into position. So what I'm going to say is, it's me and Keely on our own horse. Keely is wearing modified Slock uniform, and I'm dressed in plain clothes. And we ride up towards Aiden just as they've fallen, and I put out my hand and go, come with me before they take you.
Okay. So you're definitely in position to resist that suspicion. Which attribute do you feel like that is? Is that resolve resist, or is it insight about seeing it coming? Is it more about the social that you do, or seeing the moment, or something else?
It is about the social. It's so unfortunate that I only have one.
So
not in both of these.
If you
things,
roll 1d for resist, that could be very expensive in stress. So as a fan of the player, I'm going to ask, do you want to resist 1 tick, possibly at the cost of 5 stress?
Yeah, I don't want to do that now.
I think 1 tick is not too bad.
Yeah, because you may need to resist when you make this roll.
This is a 4-tick clock?
It's a 4-tick alarm clock.
I want to save the actual resist for later, but I do want to get Aiden's attention so you can get on this horse and get out of here.
Sure. Yeah, so what are you using to convince Aiden of this ruse?
I mean, sway is the only thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I have this Aiden alarm clock, which I'm gonna choose. I'm gonna set to 1 tick to show how our clocks work. So if you're on the Sedgelands page, actually I'm gonna move this over here because you are all in white beam. So yeah, this I think has become a risky situation because so many things are different, and Aiden is really on their guard.
Hey, Mike, can you move that a little further left so that way I don't have to move them? Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Cool.
But you did get a setup, so you can take the setup to improve to get a bonus die or to improve effect.
What is my effect as it stands?
I think you are at risky limited to convince them to trust a stranger, even if it's a stranger from a mercenary company that's renowned.
The bonus die is statistically more useful, so I'll take the bonus die.
Okay.
So risky limited.
I have a devil's bargain that I can offer if you're interested in hearing.
There's another person
I would like to hear it, but only if it's not another person.
And their plan is served.
Good.
So
thank you, devil.
I think if it's not this other thing, then I think it has to be someone from the castle sees this happen.
Well, I mean,
it will be from a very far distance, but
yes.
Someone will see this.
So the challenge is one.
Is anyone wearing a big Drosten's label on them?
Right, so this is a challenge, and I guess I'm posing this aloud because on the one hand, it's kind of obvious that Aiden will be missing at some point, and part of the goal is for that, is for the awareness of who is responsible to be mired in all this subterfuge. So it stands to reason that no one will suspect at least Ciaran and the people that they know have left with Ciaran for this kidnapping in particular. But it is highly likely that at some point, House Gearr will just want to pin it on Drosten's bandits anyway, and if they decide to do any investigation as a result, Drosten will be in hot water. Do we want to put Drosten in hot water knowing that we're doing this in part to help him? Because I think not.
Yeah, I don't think Venner would be in favor of putting Drosten in hot water. Also because it's separate from not being Venner's personality. Also, he doesn't want to burn, like for one of the things we thought about was if we do successfully get Aiden, the people that will be watching Aiden are Drosten, right? And Drosten's bandits. And I don't know that Drosten's going to be big on that idea if we also screwed him over. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I agree with you that probably we don't want to do that.
So I believe there's a new Ciaran, Harvest. What are your thoughts?
From Harvest's perspective, is if it takes the heat off Ciaran, Harvest is very much in favor of that. Throw the attention anywhere else.
Okay.
Sorry, I do not want to burn Drosten. We need this ally.
Yeah. So with that, I think we are mostly in consensus to say again, tough luck, Satan.
I'll get you one day.
So we will continue with Risky Limited.
Brandon Dunsel in chat says we should just say we know how to get your mother to respect you, to overcome all possible obstacles. Do you wish to be respected by your mother? Come with us. It seems a little on the nose, but
Yeah, just a little bit. Right. So Risky Limited, and I have +1 die.
Yes.
Okay. Whew.
Nice.
A 1 and a 6.
Outstanding.
Okay, so you do succeed. There is not a consequence, but it is a limited effect, which I think means that they turn and regard you like a servant, and then they turn back to the kind of where they came from, and said, "Who are you? Did my mother send you?" So Aiden wants to know who really you are before they're gonna hop on a horse and go somewhere with you.
Mm-hmm. At which point I've already essentially kind of rehearsed with Keely, and you can directorially veto this as much as possible. Keely points to their Slovak raiment pin, and I just essentially all I say is, we've been watching from afar. This has been in planning for some time now, and we wanted to get in front of it before it became an incident. This is your last chance.
Okay, that I think will be another roll. Alex, you're in a position, if you are still chasing, to lend an assist here, so you could use your tactician again.
Yes.
If that seems sensible. So what is
I can. I mean, honestly, okay. As something that we could have put in place beforehand is the sort of, if there being a problem, I can still be riding up and I'm gonna kill you, and we could honestly just have someone else come pretend to drive me, attack me or drive me off, and I can, try to hit them with my squeaky sword ineffectually, but it'll look good.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. I think I wouldn't call for a stress cost for that type of planning. And you are a tactician, so you can have thought it through. So if you tick that other use of tactician, you can give Rowan a +1d. You do not need increased effect here because you've already succeeded with limited effect. But I think this is still risky.
Okay, so risky. And the effect is what you said?
It starts at limited, but you only need limited to kind of complete the pitch.
Okay.
All right. So I think you convince them, but I am going to tick the alarm clock. No. Sorry, I'm still getting used to using these clocks. So that is 3 of 4 on the alarm clock, which is going to inform fictional positioning once y'all leave, because at this point, Aiden is leaving with you consciously, but then you have enough people that it kind of does not matter what they think if and when they realize that they've been tricked, because the trap is sprung, you've succeeded, and the Splendor's revolution has begun. Because House Gearr, the lesser House Gearr, doesn't have any other heirs, and they need someone to take over, because the top of House Gearr is getting folded into Lolaire, and that gap cannot be tolerated. And now you have a hostage.
Okay.
So we are at 11:30, so I'm going to call it there. Normally we would do some steps of like, we've completed a mission, and so we're going to walk through some things, but I don't want to go too late.
We're wrapping up, but can I ask a question before we do? So Harvest straight up murdered somebody. What's the Wraith situation?
Yes. So
does that happen immediately? Does that take time?
I think the more violent the death, the more rapid the Wraith. The Wraith will be birthed.
Mm-hmm. So instantaneously, then?
Yeah, I think
that's what we're talking about.
Knowing ahead of time that you are likely to do murder, I think if somebody marks silver, you would have had the time, and you have control of the situation, that you could have just waited for the Wraith and got it on the way in. I think you have.
Can I put one last thing about Harvest on screen then?
Absolutely.
And you can tell me if this completely
I'll
violates
note
the
that
technology.
I can take the silver.
So on my sheet, I do have gear of a fine silver dueling weapon.
Ooh.
And so I'm for an extra 2 load, and I've only used 2 load until this point. So I have this idea about Harvest Sword, which is that they can pull a lever on the handle and the blunt side pops open, and there's a silver blade embedded on the backside of the sword.
Does it have its own like crossguard and handle or anything?
No, I think it's just a 2-sided sword. Half of it is steel and half of it is silver, and the silver side has like a protective, because the silver I'm imagining is softer than the steel, it has a protective guard over it most of the time that can be retracted. Mm-hmm. But if that doesn't make sense for the technology level that we're dealing with, then we could do something. Harvest can have a separate silver weapon or something like that, or we could do something else entirely here.
I think the simpler thing is you pull out the pommel,
mm-hmm.
and there's the silver sword or dagger. If it's a really big sword, you could just pop out the.
That's pretty sweet, actually.
I think that fits the technology level a bit
mm-hmm.
better.
Mm-hmm. There's a second sword sheathed inside the first sword. Okay.
Swordception.
Cool. Yeah, exactly.
And I think you don't have to roll for it, but the flavor I would give it is you're waiting, and it's kind of like waiting for a zombie to turn dramatically. But what we see is a silver, like kind of a silver overlay on the soldier, on the one soldier's face. And as it begins to like shout in anger and pull away, you know that that's when you can stab, and you will pin the Wraith to the body and send it on to whatever awaits past the gates of death.
And I think Harvest's affect in this moment is very different from everything we've seen up until this point. That sort of like bluff, violent, good cheer is completely absent here. And there's just sort of a grim, just a grimness to them as they put this Wraith to bed.
So if that's all right, I think we can have that be the last shot of our session. And I want to thank all of you as fabulous players, and thank everybody for kind of working as we all kind of reacquaint ourselves with the rules in some cases and get the feel for the characters. I've really loved all of the role play. I want to say thank you to everybody who is watching for being a great and encouraging audience. as we kick off this new series that I've been really excited about. I will briefly plug that if you're excited about the series and you want to know more, that we do have the session 0 that is recorded, and I recorded GM prep today. So if you want to really deep dive, you can become a Patreon supporter at $3 or any of the levels above $3, and you can access those videos right away through the Patreon. So that is my pitch there. We will let you all know when we have the next session scheduled. This is planned as a mini series of somewhere between 6 and 8 episodes, depending on how play operates, because we play to find out what happens. So I'm gonna throw to, let's do brief outros, and then I will let Greg wrap us up. And this time I'll ask if Brandon can do an outro first.
Hi, everybody. It's me again, Brandon. I'm a poet, writer, and game designer from Trinidad and Tobago, and one part of the 3 hosts of Speculate. I have been playing Row and Burn in this game, and I've been digging in it quite a lot, so thank you very much for an opportunity to finally play instead of GM. But you can find me on most social media at The Rising Tides. That's TITHES. And you can find my website, brandonobrien.space.
Great. DongWon.
I'm DongWon Song. I'm a literary agent with the Howard Moorhead Literary Agency. You can find me on Twitter at DongWon, and subscribe to my newsletter at publishingishard.substack.com.
Cool. Alex.
All right. I have been Alex Acks, the Splendour. You can find me at Katsudonbury on Twitter, and my website's katsudon.net, and all my good stuff's there.
Cool. Again, I'm Michael R. Underwood. I've been your GM. I've had a wonderful time. And right now, my book, Annihilation Aria, is part of the Expansive Futures bundle at Story Bundle. So you can go to storybundle.com/sci-fi and get 18 science fiction books for the low, low price of $15. And doing so will support the authors, Story Bundle, and SFWA, which has been doing a bunch in the last year or so as people struggle with a pandemic. So now I will throw it to Greg to take us out.
Great stuff. First of all, thank you to all the players. This was a lot of fun, and I was mentioning in Zoom how much I've just been smiling at the image for the last 45 minutes of just the harvest, followed by me yelling at the guy and throwing him into a tree. It's great stuff. And also thanks to Mike for a really great setup and arrangement of this, like really nicely paced and everything else. And I am excited to see how this goes on down the line. So I'm going to let these wonderful folks go. Before I do that, I'm going to thank again the Speculate listeners. Thank you so much. And as Mike said, please support us on the Patreon so that we can bring you more of these kinds of things. And thank you as always for listening and being a part of the show. And of course, the same thing to the Twitch chat. And speaking now that I let the Speculate folks go, speaking of Twitch chat, Twitch folks, can we get some love for the amazing players who we will see here in one capacity or another next month for the next big session of these. So thank you to Alex X, to DongWon Song, to Brandon O'Brien, and of course to Michael Underwood for amazing work today. Thank you all so much, players and GM. Great fun. Can't wait for more. And I'm going to let you folks go. So thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you.
And that is going to do it for us for this special Thursday stream of the joint Speculate Twitch channel thing. That was a lot of fun, and one of the big reasons that it was a lot of fun is the fact that I love the visual image. Like, I was just kind of like, we just like, oh, I'm a big fan of Venner, actually. I think I'm going to really enjoy playing Venner. And I really enjoyed the way all of that worked together. I think it just fits sort of beautifully. And I can't imagine that there's going to be any consequences to our basically poking, house in the eye like this. I can't imagine that it'll cause any problems. I don't see why that would be bad at all. Yeah, but you'll be able to see more of that, of course, next month. You will also, of course, get a chance to see these folks in different capacities coming up soon, particularly Brandon, who you'll be able to see here on Sunday, where I believe we have got, although let me just double check here very quickly, we have got On Sunday, coming up, we have got, that's what I thought. So we've got Soundclash the Clampdown coming up on Sunday the 14th. That will be with Brandon GMing. And then the following Sunday will be our other special joint Speculate Twitch stream this month. And that, of course, is our Blades in the Dark campaign, which has been running for a while and is moving into its latter stages probably, although I don't know how far in, but so you'll get a chance to see more of Brandon as time goes on. Also, I will mention schedule-wise that as far as this channel is concerned, separate from Speculate, we have got more of Inkle's Sorcery 3, The Seven Serpents, coming at you tomorrow evening, Friday night. And then on Saturday night, we have, if you liked this and you want to see more role-playing, we have more D&D coming at you with Palace of the Red Pasha as the Infinity and Beyond crew continues its high-level campaign exploring Calimport as it prepares to find the last remaining stronghold of the Cult of the Dragon. It's really cool, really good players there as well, and I am very much excited to DM that for you, and that'll be happening on Saturday evening. So we've got Sorcery 3 tomorrow, where chat makes the decisions. Then Saturday, we have got Palace of the Red Pasha, some D&D, and then Sunday, we have Soundclash the Clampdown, and then Monday, we have got Grumbler's Guide to Temple of Elemental Evil with Sod, and then Tuesday, we have got more Adventures of Middle Earth, followed by D&D with GOG Storm King's Thunder. So we got a lot of stuff coming up over the next few days, a lot of tabletop stuff and related properties. And so if you like that kind of stuff, that would be awesome. A quick reminder, again, that supporting the Speculate Patreon you can do here by checking out !Speculate. That will link you over to the Patreon for Speculate. And if you want to see more about the Session Zero and about Mike's GM prep and stuff like that, you can check that out by doing that !Speculate. That would be really cool. Also, you can support us here on this channel by following the channel, by checking out the YouTube, which will have this and other broadcasts of these streams coming up. That's !ArvTube for that. ! And also we're trying to get subs up over there as well. That's free, but that'll definitely help because we're trying to eventually monetize that system if we possibly can. ! ArvCord is the Discord channel where you can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. ! ArvTweets is the Twitter where I will always tweet when I'm going live, and we'll talk about teaching and writing and gaming and streaming and family and music and, even politics here and there. That's over at my Twitter, !ArvTweets, and the website for all of this is arvanelleron.com. Incidentally, it looks like I may have gotten somebody who can do some webmastering, which means that those websites are going to get some overhauls and updates and things like that, which is cool because I've been wanting to do that, and I'm glad I may have someone who can do that. But so that's good news. On the financial front for us, !ArvShop is the merchandise area for the channel where you can get stuff for Infinity and Beyond, Adventures to Middle Earth, and soon to be Aspergenesis. !ArvTrayon is the Patreon. That's my Patreon, my channels, which is 21 patrons, $2.33 per month. We're trying to build that up too. You can get inspirations to help the players. You can get a copy of one of my band's albums. You can get an epic character background or poem written for you. You can get even critiques of your writing if you go at a high enough level. Plus, we're trying to get the channel moved towards channel level goals, another Arvanaut Idol contest, another talisman tournament, things like that. Thank you, Live. I'm very excited about it. It's going to be a big help. So it will free up a bit of the brain space that I have to occupy thinking about stuff like that. So anyway, that is going to be over there with the Patreon. And then we have, of course, the subsystem. A few of you subbed today, so thank you so much. I think I saw Triffid also sub to the channel. So thank you so much to everyone who subbed or resubbed today. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate it very much, and if others want to, you can sub to the channel, and that will allow you to get access to custom sub badges and emotes, and again, even inspirations for the players at high enough levels. And then, of course, we've got the publishing stuff, Icarus for my Icarus graphic novel from Athos Arts. More details about that. Library is Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library. Resub for 11 months, almost a year, Triffid. Wow, almost a year. It's hard to believe, but thank you, Triffid. I really appreciate that. Library, Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library, my 5e adventure and sourcebook. We just need to get it out of customs, and then we'll be able to get the physical versions of these out. Believe me, I want to. And then Grayshade KS is the Grayshade Kickstarter, again, which is going to be launching mid-month of next month, probably March 16th or so. So we're only about a little over a month out from the official launch date of that, which is going to be a big deal. So I'm very excited about that. And as always, BLM, Black Lives Matter. We must affirm and assert the significance and necessity of supporting and protecting Black lives. and honoring and Black lives. So that is something you can find over on that link. Political information about political advocacy, about education, places where you can donate resources and things of that nature. And then, of course, !Help Now, which is the World Health Organization suicide prevention page, which is really important, especially in the dark time that we're in. There is positive news on the horizon. The news continues to be good on the gradually receding nature of the pandemic and the fact that vaccinations are continuing to happen at a now a good pace, at least within the United States, and worldwide they're starting to ramp up. So that's good news, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that as time goes on. So we're getting there. We're getting there, but in the meantime, we really need to be able to help people, and that happens even without a pandemic. Obviously, suicide is a huge problem, and so being able to prevent it by reaching out to others when they need help or reaching out to others if you need help, both of those things can be a big deal here. And answer your question, Lone Wolf, third tier subs or 2-tier subs. I don't know if I totally understand what you mean. Having a tier 3 sub is, first of all, very generous, and it's great because you get an awesome custom badge, and that certainly helps more financially than a single tier 2 sub. But if you mean, is it better to get 2 tier 2 subs or 1 tier 3 sub? I would need to do the math. I don't know. I don't remember entirely how that works. But in general, whatever people are able to sub at is of help for my channel. Right. No, I know that. No, I know for my channel, but I'm saying I don't fully know if you mean, because technically a tier 3 sub is a bigger level of support, so it's more money that comes to the channel. Tier 2 is great as well, but it's not as much money as a tier 3 would be. So, I mean, I guess that's the way I would look at it. Probably a tier 3 sub is technically more money for the channel, and it's more sub points. So in terms of how Twitch looks at it, I don't know that it matters a big deal one or the other, but certainly anything that shows more sub points and more support of that level is a good thing for them, and certainly helps me out. So whatever you want to do, but I would say technically in a vacuum, tier 3 is probably better than tier 2 as a general rule, I would say. But having said that, let me see whether I'm going to do a raid today or not. Let me see. Trying to decide if I want to do that because I don't normally stream on a Thursday. Give me a second here. Let me just double check. Yeah, actually, I do see some of that I can read. Okay, cool. Oh, well, if that's what you mean, if you mean what's better, Twitch or Patreon, technically, Patreon is more, I get more money from Patreon at a higher level support than I get from Twitch. They don't, the fees are, Twitch takes away basically half. Patreon is more like, I don't know what it is, a quarter or something like that. So that's the idea. Oh, you heard something about the arbitrary points on Twitch count more with tier 2, whereas tier 3 was just monetarily better. Oh, to be honest with you, Lone Wolf, I don't have the faintest idea, actually. I don't even know. I'm not sure. That's a new one on me. I don't know. I didn't know about that. I mean, the only thing I can think of is having 2 tier 2 subs might mean that they see more subs in general, and more people subbing may be better than one, like, more, financially capable 3rd tier sub. I don't honestly know, Lone Wolf. I'd be interested to know. If you find out, let me know, because I honestly don't know the answer to that myself. But in any case, so I think we are going to do a raid here. We'd only have a few people here because normally I don't go on Thursday, but I have someone that I think we can do. So, because it's not super late. And so the way we do that is this. If you are not a sub, you're going to do this. The Arvanauts have landed, followed by Twitch raid, lowercase Twitch, uppercase R, lowercase AID. If you are a sub, you're going to do this. Arvany hype, and then the Arvanauts have landed, Twitch raid. Then you got Arvany roar, Arvany whoa, Arvany witch, Arvany what, Arvany Arvany Smug, Arvany Love, depending on what you've got. All of that would be very much appreciated if you folks could stick around for the raid and you were brought over there auto-magically. I want to thank, of course, all the amazing mods who made this possible. Thank you to my amazing mods, Jedi Burner, Triffity Mats, the Rising Tides. I'll come back to the Rising Tides in just a minute. Earlier on, we had Shadow Mage here as well, so thank you to all of those lovely people. Thank you to my wonderful subscribers, Jedi Burner, Triffity Mats. Thank you to Commander Dunsel, Gigafrost, Lone Wolf, Mrs. Dunsel, and Turbo Tango. Again, I'll come back to the players in a second. Thank you so much to those and the Patreon supporters. Thank you to my wonderful watchers, my wonderful viewers. Thank you to another TT viewer, Aiden, Carbo, Commander, ECAG, Foxy, Galadriel Kodiak Bruja, Live Suing, Silly Gnome, Tauntoms, U Christensen, VNK, and Virgo Pros. Thank you all so much for all of that. And a special thanks today to the wonderful players. Thank you to DongWon Song, to Alex X. Thank you to Brandon O'Brien. Thank you to Michael Underwood for wonderful GMing. Great job. And thank you as well to Shadowed Mage for that awesome overlay that we got a chance to see just now. That's going to do it for me, though. Stick around for the raid, and I will see all of you folks here tomorrow evening, Friday evening, at sometime between 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern for some more of Inkle's Sorcery 3. I hope you folks enjoyed the debut of Rebel Crown. This was a lot of fun to play in, and I can't wait to do more of, ramming security guys up against trees. I mean, what could be more fun? But that's it for me. I'll see you folks on Friday. Stick around for the raid, and everyone be good to each other. Much love. Night for now. It's more cold this time of year. The sun is hidden far from